Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was wandering samurai warrior. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by WritingAgain and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Hiruzen Sarutobi sighed looking out at a child through the window in his office. A child sat on the wings alone. He had messy blonde hair, a dirty white shirt and a tattered piece of cloth that had long crossed the line of being simple shorts. He was on the swings alone, a part of his hair on the side matted with blonde. His eyes were hidden beneath his long hair, covering them in shadow. The child didn't have any shoes on, his feet bloodied and covered with dirt. Sarutobi had watched from his office as the children played in the playground beneath his office. He saw them running around, playing in the sandbox and simply playing as children often do. The Hokage had seen even some children that were from respectable shinobi clans. He saw a child playing with his puppy, no doubt hailing from the Inazaka clan. He saw the wives of Shikaku, Chusa and Inoichi respectively, and their children running around. He smiled, enjoying the sounds of laughter and general merriment of the next generation as they simply enjoyed themselves on this day. It was the perfect day for an outing, sunny with a hint of breeze. Even the birds seemed to be in a merry mood, flying with an extra oomph in their flaps. Sarutobi spied the playground, surprised, in a pleasant way, that even the Hyuga had attended this little massive play date. He smiled, pausing in his paperwork to stare out the window, content. This was exactly the kind of village he had dreamed of when he was young. No war to worry about, not wondering when the next meal cart was coming, not having to worry about money or whether your son was safe to go outside and play. It was a village of peace, the people's trust in their ninja having grown to the point where they were now a part of life, not warriors or soldiers to be feared. Ninjas weren't simply tools of wars anymore, they were a part of the village just like everyone else. Seeing the children play together had reminded him of this nice fact. Sarutobi stiffened seeing a new child enter the playground, Uzumaki Naruto. He saw the civilians and the shinobi parents start to stare at the child who had just come to the playground. Naruto began to run around but stopped, soon noticing the stares and how people began to rapidly leave. Sarutobi saw Naruto run over to the kids who had not left yet and begin to play with. He watched, a frown on his face, the worry evident upon the aged lines. The creases in his forehead deepened and he saw a child throw a punch at Naruto. The two child began to fight with other kids joining in the battle. It soon became an all-out brawl, all the kids beating up the blonde. Sarutobi took his hat and prepared to go to the playground. The thing that stopped him was that the parents began to walk over to their kids. However, to his shock, instead of reprimanding their kids, the parents simply took the kids by their hand, taking them out of the park, pretending as if nothing had happened. He saw them leave one by one. Then there was one. Naruto got up, dusted himself off and walked over to the swings. Sarutobi saw the glistening tears on his cheek, drip to the floor one by one. The sandaime turned around his heart in a greater ache than ever before. He felt anger rise within him, the pity for the blonde, then anger again at himself for being powerless. No, not powerless but simply unwilling. He was unwilling to place himself out there for Naruto. He didn't feel like this, but he knew that there was a subconscious, a deeper part of him that must fear being a part of the minority. Else why would he just crumple his hat to a wreck and simply watch, not helping the hero of the village? The professor looked back at his paperwork. What use is peace if we can't thank the one who has granted us this peace? Sarutobi looked at Naruto, who was attempting to build a sandcastle by himself. This child has done nothing to deserve this. Jinchuriki, human sacrifice. He was finding a totally different meaning to the word sacrifice. Jinchurikis weren't a sacrifice because they were given to the demons. They were a sacrifice because they were sacrificed for peace. They were the very scapegoat, the very physical manifestation of the people's fears. They were sacrificed not to the demon, but to the very populace that they worked to protect. The Jinchurikis weren't a sacrifice, they were called to sacrifice. They were called to sacrifice any semblance of a normal life, sacrifice their families and sacrifice any precious bonds that they might have had with someone else. Not having a bond with anyone, being alone forever. There existed nothing else that Sarutobi feared more. He turned away from the window, sitting back down on his desk. There's nothing else I can do. This is the life that his parents chose for him. If I draw any more attention to this, I'm only drawing attention to him. He grabbed the pen and looked at the paper in front of him, seeing it but the words resembling nothing but a stain upon the white sheet. Sarutobi sighed and focused his eyes trying to read the words. There was a knock at his door. Come in. Sarutobi answered, his voice loud and clear, but even before he had finished saying the words, a man entered the room. The third Hokage's eyes widened, recognizing the man for who he was. The man was tall, reaching nearly 6.5. He had wide shoulders, so much that when he entered through the doorway, it had looked a bit cramped. His size was on par with Jiraiya. Height and width weren't the only thing they had in common, they had the same atmosphere about them, the air of power, strength and confidence in their skills. This man had seen many battles of life and death, and he had survived them all. The man had a broad jaw and one eye that was closed. He was ruggedly handsome, promising some danger yet dependence to women who looked upon him. He had his hair tied into a ponytail, yet his hair wasn't long enough for it to reach his neck or even the back of his head. His ponytail ended a bit after the rope used to tie his hair, a little puff of spiky hair that hung down just an inch or two. The man was wearing a type of greave that started at his wrist and ended a bit before his elbow. He had a black kimono with a sash tied around it. On the right side of his waist hung a single sword. Sarutobi Dano. The man greeted. Miyamoto Sarutobi took out a long pipe, sending a puff of smoke into the air. Otherwise known as Musashi. Please, just call me Takizo. The man shot him a silly grin, rubbing the back of his head and a faint blush on his face. I'm embarrassed when people address me as that, but that is the title that you have earned, is it not? Sarutobi smiled, seeing the abashed Takizo. Takizo, the strongest samurai. Takizo came from a long lineage of swordsmen. Not only that, instead of inheriting the techniques of his family, Takizo was apprenticed the previous Musashi of his generation. There were some dark rumors surrounding the practice of samurai, such as apprentices killing each other for the right to pass on to the next generation their techniques, and even practices that dictated that the students kill the master in a death match to earn mastery of their swordsmanship. Then again, there was the title of Musashi. Only the greatest samurai of their generation was granted the name Miyamoto Musashi, handed down generations and generations ago. Takizo's previous master had been called Musashi as well. Then somewhere along the line, Takizo took the name Musashi for himself. Whether his master passed it on to him, or whether Takizo truly fought his master in a death match, Sarutobi did not know, nor did he want to know more about such dark arts. All he knew was that this man wasn't like other samurai. His powers were a force to be reckoned with, and he had a feeling that Sarutobi wasn't simply dropping by to say hello. Confirming his fears, the next words nearly stopped the old man's heart. Give me the child. Sarutobi dropped his pipe onto the desk, scattering ash all over his cursed paperwork. But the man didn't even care at that point. He stared at the samurai's expression, hoping for any semblance of a joke or lack of seriousness. The sandame frowned, looking out the window at the blonde child who was making a sand castle and then back at the samurai who stood in front of him. Would you care to repeat that? I want the child. Musashi's voice left no room for doubt. He's not treated well here. I want to take him and make him my apprentice. I will teach him the way of my style. I wish for him to inherit my techniques and make him the next Musashi. Just as my master had taken me and I became the inheritor, I wish for him to become the sole inheritor of my techniques, the Sanmai. 3 dances? Sarutobi froze at his last words. He stood up. Then he slammed his hands on the desk, sending papers flying around in his office. Get out. He whispered. I don't want you anywhere near Naruto. I know that many, even other samurai, regard the dances as a cursed art. Musashi began. Shut up. Sarutobi lost it and pointed at the door, his eyes bloodshot and spittle beginning to form at the corners of his mouth. I won't let you take Naruto. I'm taking him whether you like it or not, old man. Musashi shook his head. Minato saved my life. I won't let his son be treated like some common scum. I won't let you people treat him like some outcast. I won't allow it. Sarutobi whispered again, shaking his head. I'm calling the Anbu. The only one in this village who can defeat me is you. The samurai retorted. And we both know you won't stop me. This is Minato's will. The Hokage pled. This is Naruto's village. He belongs here. I'm not my master, Sarutobi. Musashi's words were calm and emotionless, contrary to the Hokage who had just lost his cool seconds ago. I'm not scared of shinobi. Don't put me on the same level as other samurai. The Hokage remained silent for a few more minutes, then sat down, trying to slow of his erratic heartbeat. He was getting too old for this. Hiruzen looked out the window, seeing Naruto climb the swings by himself. He saw some villagers pass by the playground, seeing the blonde and gossiping among themselves. He felt another pang of pain go through his chest. Why him? Because he's alone. The samurai didn't miss a beat. He crossed his arms, knowing that he didn't need to be particularly persuasive. They both knew it. Naruto, if he stayed, was going to be forever alone. The blonde was an outcast, among his peers and even in the village. Not a single person comforted or spoke anything close to a single warm word to the boy. The Hokage couldn't show favoritism, or words would be whispered and unwanted attention from other people would be brought to the boy. Soon his true identity would be brought to light and he'd grow up not as just a loner to his peers, but as a monster, a freak, and something akin to disposable trash. He couldn't let that happen to Naruto. Naruto. Sarutobi sighed, then turned to Musashi. Make sure no one sees you on your way out. So your name is Takizo? The 8-year-old blonde asked. Yup. The samurai answered, his newest pupil a wide smile on his face. The two were walking on a little dirt path that led the way out of Konoha. In truth, they had left the village many hours ago. To his surprise, the blonde came willingly. All the samurai needed to do was buy him some food and tell him that the sandame had sent him. At first the blonde had been very doubtful and mistrusting, but once he mentioned the third Hokage, he followed willingly enough. He didn't even ask a lot of questions when Takizo had told him that he was to come with him. Naruto packed up his stuff as fast as he could, packing things that meant nothing to Takizo but apparently meant a lot to the blonde. Takizo-san. Naruto began. Where are we? Call me sensei. I'm okay, Takizo-sensei. Naruto ventured, surprised at the sharp tone in the man's voice. Then he looked at the big man and sweat dropped a bit. Takizo was blushing, looking the other way. He's really happy that I called him sensei. That's the first time I've been called sensei. Naruto, I'll protect you with my life, my cute pupil. Takizo promised, crying tears of joy. So where are we going, sensei? The blonde turned back to his initial question, grunting with effort. They had been walking for hours, and now that the excitement of leaving the village had worn off, his energy levels were beginning to drop. They had left in the afternoon, and now the sun was beginning to set, to the land of iron. Takizo peered at Naruto from the corner of his eyes. To begin your training, which in truth began the moment we stepped out of Konoha. Oh. 8-year-old Naruto kicked a pebble that was in his way. So does that mean I don't have to go to the academy anymore? You'll find some other friends. I assure you. Takizo placed a hand on the handle of his sword unconsciously, feeling the smooth handle. But I need to become a great shinobi, and if I don't go to the academy, Takizo interrupted the blonde midway. From now on, Naruto, I'm your master. I'll be in charge of your training from now on. He gestured towards the sword that he was gripping. Do you see what I'm holding? A sword, exactly. Takizo smiled at the blonde, the goofy grin lightening a smile on Naruto's face as well. I'm not a shinobi, Naruto, which means I can't teach you shinobi arts. Then how am I supposed to become stronger? The blonde continued to stare at the sword. It was inside a black sheath. The guard was shaped a lot like flower petals in Naruto's opinion. The handle was covered in white bandages which had a lot of other stains on it. I will teach you in the way of the samurai. Takizo glanced at the blonde, then shrugged. You are 8 years old. In the future I plan to return you to Konoha. You will train with me for 4 years. During those 4 years you will master different aspects of the samurai arts. For your first year we will be in the land of iron, where you will be trained in the basics. Then for 3 years I will personally train you. Naruto nodded, not really understanding anything but finding something unusual. Why are we going to the land of iron? Can't you train me all those stuff yourself? No, I can't. Takizo shook his head. In the land of iron, you will meet many other apprentices your age. They will be going through the same training as you. How to hold a sword, the basic stance, how to treat a sword, and basic conditioning. You will also be trained in the ways of the samurai bushido. It sounds too boring. Can't you teach me like a jutsu that'll make me? We don't use jutsus. The samurai stopped and bent on one knee. He grabbed Naruto by the shoulder and looked at Naruto in the eye. Naruto stared back, noting that one eye on the man's face was closed. Naruto, from now on, you must throw away your dreams of being a ninja. Try not to mention anything about shinobis when you go to the school with the other kids. Already you will be a target for ridicule since you are my apprentice. But some samurais hold a stigma against ninjas. No one will recognize you as a shinobi there unless you tell them. Please, for your own sake, try not to talk about being a ninja. They don't like you? Naruto cocked his head to the side. Takizo hesitated, wondering how much to tell the boy. I'll tell you more about the history of my art once you have become powerful enough. He grimaced, feeling embarrassed beneath the gaze of the innocent boy. The samurai felt as somehow telling the cursed history of their techniques would tarnish the boy. Even teaching the technique to such a young soul felt kind of guilty. But this was something that needed to be done. Come on, Naruto, let's go. It had been a couple of months since they had left Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto missed the village at times, missing the taste of ramen, or how he would be allowed to visit the Hokage at times. He missed the playground and the amount of time that he had to himself before. He never knew how previous free time was until he was enrolled into the samurai school, mandatory for all samurai apprentices. Naruto missed the trees and the warmth of Konoha. He wanted to see the forests one more time, walking to an abandoned training post and running around screaming his heart out. The land of iron was a desolate place, deprived of the sun and any type of warmth. It was in between the 3 mountains called the 3 Wolves Mountain. When Naruto had first seen the place he had been amazed, never having seen snow before in his entire life. Konoha was always a place of warmth, sometimes being unbearably hot, but usually it was a nice balance of warmth and cool. That was the primary reason why so many people came to the village, for the weather, produce, and the protection offered by the village ninja. The land of iron was a cold place, both in the literal sense and the metaphorical sense. In Konoha the people were warm and friendly. Here they were cold and brisk. There was a type of atmosphere about the place that screamed authority and seriousness. It was a place of rules and laws, the two primary aspects that governed the lives of everyone there. The only civilians that Naruto had met were the wives and the children of the samurai. Most of the food was delivered there in monthly shipments since the icy winds and the harsh mountains did not allow for any vegetation to grow. Though there was more than vegetables, there weren't a lot of livestock either. The only type of livestock that existed in this freezing place were these big cows with lots of hair and small horns. Naruto had never seen cows like them before. They tasted the same though, and it had soon become Naruto's new favorite food. But he got used to it. It was either that or die. This wasn't a place where people made warm friendships and heartwarming relationships. It was a place where either you worked together or died together. There was a type of solidarity here, definitely not warm but a solidarity nonetheless. The air was always one of business, that those who did not work did not eat. Many people had the mindset of one for all and all for one. Naruto kind of liked it. Even if some people personally disliked Naruto, he was sure that they would rush to help him if he was in any real danger. He didn't have any proof for this, but he knew he wasn't wrong. People here were driven with the sense of responsibility and duty. Naruto had found another home. However, he didn't make any connections that he cherished because he knew he was leaving in a year. The seasons didn't change in the land of iron, but Naruto knew it was time to leave. So when Takizo came to him and told him it was time to leave to start his real training, the blonde didn't complain. He followed Takizo, and so he trained for 3 years. It was raining. Rain fell from the sky, mixing with the blood of the earth. There was a man who lay on the ground, his body cut nearly in half. The cut traveled from his shoulder to his hip. There was literally a pool of blood around him, filling the grooves in the earth only to be washed away. The man stared at nothing, one eye closed and the other staring straight into space. His life had already ended long time ago, but it had taken years for him to die. He knew that when he picked up the sword that this day would come, but he wished it had come a bit later. Why you? The man choked out, staring at the lump of body next to him. He felt worried for the owner of the body next to him. Will keep your promise then? His voice sounded weak even to his own ears, sounding feeble and hoarse. The boy who was lying on the ground next to him tried to speak, but the only sound he made was a gurgling noise. He was clutching his chest in pain, blood leaking from his mouth. With his other hand, Naruto was grabbing the ground, trying to stand but finding it impossible to find the strength in his body to do so. I will keep my promise, a voice said. Naruto's head snapped up towards the source of the voice, his eyes burning with blue fire. Thank you, wheezed Musashi, feeling a smile stretch over his mouth. He knew he was dying, yet he found peace and satisfaction in his death. His master had often told him that not everyone found peace in death, and for those who did, it was a sign that they had lived a long and good life. They had no regrets, and had lived a life that they could be proud of. Musashi smiled, remembering the senile old man. He then looked at his own apprentice, marveling at how fast time flew by. Goodbye, Takizo, the man whispered. The blade swept down and beheaded Musashi. Naruto finally found the strength to scream, seeing his teacher's head roll across the ground. He reached out with both hands, forgetting the burning sensation in his chest, and grabbed it, bringing it near him and holding onto it protectively. He turned his gaze towards the killer, covered in shadow and holding a single katana at his side. I have killed your teacher, putting an end to the curse of our arts. The man sheathed his sword, his purple eyes staring into Naruto's cerulean. I would kill you too, but I will keep my promise with your master. I will not kill you until you are of age, Uzumaki Naruto. And Master Naruto moaned, holding onto his master's head. That damned smile was still there. Rain matted the black hair to his forehead. This can't be happening. Naruto's thoughts were befuddled and muddy, just like the ground. He couldn't believe that his master, the man who had trained him and raised him and treated him like his own son for the last 4 years, had just his head was not on his neck. That was not physically possible for anyone that was alive. Naruto began to crawl towards the body, his eyes desperate and mad. Let him go, Uzumaki Naruto, he is dead. He is with us no longer. Naruto released the head, letting it roll away from him. He stared at the man in front of him, trying to burn every single detail of his face and body into his mind. The blonde put out one hand, sinking it into the ground softened by rain, and pulled himself up, managing to stand on his own feet, though a bit unsteadily. He continued to look at the man, a crazed look in his eyes. You fucking bastard! Naruto lifted his head and chin, blood dripping down and mixing with the pouring rain. You fucking bastard! I'll fucking kill you! The blonde lunged across the clearing, drawing a sword from the scabbard at his waist. There was a sound of metal on metal. Naruto flew backwards, his back slamming into the tree. He heard a crunch and a sharp pain in his back, his eyes bulging with agony. He slid down, his legs sprawled out in front of him. He stared at the sword in his hand, but half of it was gone, the blade cleaved cleanly in two. The blonde felt another pang of pain go through his chest, feeling as if something was struggling to get out, clawing and biting, giving him nothing but pain. The man watched silently. Why? Naruto whispered. Why? He didn't care about his title of Musashi. Why? Because that was his destiny, Uzumaki Naruto. The man shook his head. He knew it was coming. Those who learn our arts are destined for death, Naruto. A curse that ends with him. Naruto began to shake. The man sighed and bent down, picking up Musashi's sword. Don't you dare fucking touch that. The blonde snarled, trying to get up. He actually managed to get up on his own 2 feet until he felt his legs go out. He fell to his knees and supported himself with a hand. Yet the fire in his eyes never died. That's my master's sword, don't touch that. Naruto began to crawl towards the man, using his knees and one arm. The other arm, which had been holding his sword, hung limply at his side. I said don't fucking touch it. The man sheathed the sword and threw it in front of Naruto. That is Hanakage, the sword known as Flower Shadow. The man explained. It was the sword of your master, and our master. The man lifted up his own sword. The blade was a dull red, the stain of blood still existent on the tip. The man flicked the blade towards the ground, washing away the last of it. The guard was shaped like a flower, just like Musashi's sword, except while Musashi's sword had rounded edges on the guard, the man's guard had pointed edges. If you want to avenge your master, the man leaned a bit out of the shadow cast by the trees. Come and kill me if you can. I shall be waiting, Uzumaki Naruto. Then he left. Then Uzumaki Naruto, the child of destiny and the inheritor of the cursed techniques, opened his mouth, releasing all his anger, frustration and sorrow in a blood-curdling scream. That is how his story began. Hiruzen looked at the boy that stood in front of him. Has it already been 4 years? He glanced up from the paper that he had been reading to get one more look at the boy. Naruto's blonde hair had grown out over the years. His hair was tied into a ponytail, but it was only long enough to have a little spiky tuft at the top. The boy's whisker marks no longer looked like whiskers but claw marks. The boy didn't seem nervous or angry at all. Instead, he looked curious about the office where he was. The blonde kept on turning his head this way and that, a faint smile on his lips. He was wearing a thin blue jacket with white fur lining and a black tank top underneath it. He wore black boots with blue lining that ended a bit before his knees. The boots were formed of metal plates, making it shine in the light. He wore black pants made of the same cloth as shinobi clothing. At the right side of his waist, there was a sword. The sword, despite being a katana, had a straight scabbard, indicating that the blade within was also straight. Its guard was formed of 8 petal-looking appendages that made it resemble a flower. It was the same sword that Mousashi had brought into his office about 4 years ago. The third Hokage looked over the paper that Naruto had brought into his office once again, giving it the once-over. The paper stated that Musashi had died in battle. The country of Iron, Mifune, said that it was last wish of Musashi's for Naruto to go back to Konohagakure and resume his ninja training. However, it also stated that if Konohagakure would not accept the blonde, they wouldn't mind taking the blonde back into their midst once more. He had no intention of doing that. Naruto, do you remember me? The Sandaime took out a long pipe, taking a puff from it. Of course, you're the old man. The blonde tapped a finger on the end of his katana. The Hokage. The third Hokage nodded, satisfied with the answer. He settled back in his chair, giving his full attention to the blonde. What brings you here, Naruto? The blonde cocked his head to the side. What? I asked why you're here. Musashi wanted me to be here. Naruto frowned. I don't understand your question. Hiruzen leaned forward, stapling his fingers, setting the pipe aside. It's a simple question. I'm asking you what your reasons are for being here. That's none of your business. Naruto replied, his hand touching the handle of his sword. Hiruzen narrowed his eyes. Something had flashed in Naruto's face that he hadn't had the time to make out. Naruto had an alternate motive for being here, and Hiruzen swore that he would find out what it was. But as for now, the genin teams have already been formulated, and I'm not going to move people around. Considering your age, I want to introduce you to the other genin. I'm assuming that you have basic combat skills? Hiruzen waved his hand, knocking away Naruto's response. That was a stupid question. A smile appeared on his face. What would you like to do? I need missions. Naruto answered immediately. I need missions that'll put me in contact with the underground world, the criminals, the scumbags of society. That sort of thing. Hiruzen stared at the 12-year-old boy in front of him, his mouth wide open. Naruto shrugged. You're the one who asked? The Sandaime coughed. Sorry to break it to you, Naruto, but to take on those types of missions you will need to acquire a certain level of rank, most likely Jounin if you were serious about the types of missions you wanted. To do that you need to take the Chunin test, then another Jounin exam. Just let me fight one. The blonde shrugged, shooting an absolute predatory grin at the aged ninja. I might surprise you. It doesn't work like that. The third Hokage sighed. Are you interested in going back to the academy? Naruto shot him a look. Never mind, bad idea. Good thing we know exactly what to do. Both occupants of the room looked at the door, seeing 5 new people enter. 2 of them were very old with graying hairs from the results of age. The man had glasses and a robe attached to a white scarf wrapped around his neck. He had an aura similar to Hiruzen, but whilst Hiruzen had an air of wisdom and strength tempered by age, this man looked harsh and bitter, something that Naruto did not like. The man reminded him of what a harsh grandpa would be like if he had one. The woman had her hair tied up into a bun, the skin on her face sagging with age. Her eyes were nearly closed, yet the way she held herself screamed authority. This woman was the type whose existence screamed out respect. Naruto had a feeling that this wasn't due to age, that even when she had been a younger version of herself she had the same type of air. One was a Jounin. He had short brown hair and large black eyes that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. He wore the flak jacket that all Konoha shinobi wore, except that his did not have the swirly things Naruto had seen before. The man was tall and well built, though not overly so. His hiata was hugging the sides of his face, a rare style these days. Naruto leaned on the ball of his feet for a split second, spying 2 pouches instead of the usual one on the man's hip. The other 2 were closer to Naruto's age. One had short black hair, matted down by nothing more than gravity itself. He had extremely pale skin, something that reminded Naruto of the people from the land of iron, which he considered his home now, due to the constant freezing weather that was prevalent there. To Naruto's disgust, the boy wore a shirt that exposed his stomach, a black jacket covering the shirt that held red straps on the side. Naruto sensed more than saw Hiruzen stiffen when he spotted the boy, but he ignored it. The other one was a rather nerdy-looking girl. She also wore glasses. However, unlike the old man's, hers were tinted with swirls, most likely equipped with some type of chakra. She was wearing black long-sleeved top and a light purple apron, which underneath she wore black shorts. Beneath the top Naruto saw a hint of mesh net. She had a backpack and Naruto did not see any kunai holster on her. This team has been prepared especially for you, Uzumaki Naruto. Hamura, what is this? Explain yourself. Hiruzen asked the old man who had addressed Naruto. We formed this team with the special help from a few very different organizations. Koharu. The Sandane whispered. Sarutobi, the old woman replied. We can't very well have a boy running around the village by himself. He's a ninja in his own rights, and he needs a team to be placed in. Hokage-sama. The man wearing the flak jacket looked perplexed, and Naruto knew that he had not known about this. I thought you were the one who ordered this. Sarutobi leaned back in his chair, feeling the beginnings of a headache start in the back of his head. The jounin that stood in front of him was Yamato, a member of the ANBU. It wasn't a coincidence that Hamura and Koharu brought these three to be part of Naruto's team. Yamato, besides being a ninja whose strength was a force to be reckoned with, was also blessed with a special type of chakra, the Mokuton, would release. No doubt they had chosen him just for that reason. The man's chakra descended from the Shodaime himself, the only man to have had a chakra that reacted specially to Biju chakra. Yamato was a safety caution and nothing more, not really a sensei. How much of this the man knew himself, Sarutobi did not know, but Yamato had a tendency to be a bit absent-minded at times. The boy with the black jacket and the red straps was a member of Roots, a special ANBU unit under the direct control of Danzo. He didn't even consider that the old war hawk might try to wedge himself into this matter, and try to gain some semblance of control during the mess. Naruto had not come at a good time. Danzo and himself had an argument concerning the Uchiha boy not too long ago. It seemed now that Danzo had set his sights on a different type of power. Sarutobi sighed, wondering why this was getting more and more complicated. He didn't know what Shiho was doing here. She was a genin, sure, but she had been placed on the cryptanalysis squad, a team of shinobi that specialized in decoding secret messages and riddles. The girl had barely passed her genin test, but her talent as a cryptanalyst had been acknowledged by the current team. The fact that she was here baffled Sarutobi, but judging by the excited look on her face, Hiruzen had a feeling she had jumped at the chance to be a regular genin. She was at the age where she wanted to run outside and entertain dreams of grandeur of being a powerful shinobi. The Hokage felt pity for the girl for being caught up in a web of intrigues that she no doubt had no idea about. So there were three factions here. Sarutobi, who just wanted to place Naruto in a shinobi team without causing problems for other shinobis. He was originally going to place Naruto back into the academy, but the blonde didn't seem to like that idea too much. He wanted to find a team that was missing a member, but Koharu and Hamura had simply barged into his office, springing this trap on him. They were the other faction, fearmongers that wanted to keep the Kyuubi Jinchuiki under surveillance and control. Then there was Sai, and behind him, Danzo, who no doubt had his own designs for the boy. Yamato may have been tricked into this, but he had seen enough of the Hokage's reaction to see what had went on here. I won't let you down, Hokage-sama. The jounin, former Umbu, nodded towards the Sandane. The third Hokage smiled. It seemed that Koharu and Hamura had forgotten where Yamato's true allegiance lay. Besides, if Danzo was going to place a root member near Naruto, it was only right that Sarutobi place someone who could keep an eye on Danzo's henchmen. He would have preferred someone like Kakashi or Asuma, but it was too late now. He had been dealt his cards. But now that he thought it over, it wasn't too bad. Fine. Sarutobi muttered. Little did he know that the whole world shifted just a little. They called themselves Team 13. Soon after the 5 people had entered and he had given his permission, Sarutobi had dismissed them. Yamato led the 3 newly instated genin out of the Hokage Tower, taking them to a barbecue restaurant quite popular in town. Here, the word led was metaphorical. He actually walked behind the 3, trying to gauge their personalities and their quirks from the way they walked, possibly even what they were thinking. Naruto walked with confident yet rigid steps. The blonde was absolutely confident of his own strength, something rare in a genin. He also spied sword that the blonde carried. Yamato had heard about the blonde's disappearance for the last 4 years from other ANBU members who often talked about the Jinchuriki when the story came up. He remembered Kakashi being livid that the boy had been let out of the village with a stranger. Kakashi seemed to be protective of the boy, and it was understandable. Kakashi had strong feelings for the previous Hokage and as a result believed that the boy's upbringing was his responsibility. Shiho seemed to be almost skipping. When he had gone to pick her up from the cryptanalysis squad, she had literally leaped for joy. The girl had been cursed with a brain that was fit for the cryptanalysis team and at the same time, a heart for adventure. Her parents were apparently very protective of her and loath to release her. However, a teenage girl could be very convincing in getting what they wanted. The girl was getting to be a normal genin, not a special genin that was going to be locked up in a library every single day. She wanted to be out there and do things, not decode messages on dried-up pieces of paper. Sai walked with a slink that belonged to a Root member for sure. Yamato was mistrusting of the boy. Something about Sai set him apart from the other member of Root that Yamato had worked with or seen. The other Root members seemed to have no emotions at all, absolutely none. However, Sai only seemed to be pretending to have no emotions, fooling everyone into thinking that he had no heart, including himself. Yamato wondered what would happen if he cracked that shell. They sat around the table with the meat grilling in front of them. Naruto said nothing, staring straight ahead at the meat and nothing else. Sai was smiling, his eyes seeming to be almost closed. Shiho seemed nervous now, her hands clenched on the cloth over her knees. So how about a round of introductions? Yamato smiled at his 3 students, flipping the meat over with his chopsticks. I know all your names and who you guys are, but I'm not sure you guys know each other. The sound of silence was broken only by the sound of grilling meat. I guess I can go first. Yamato let go of his chopsticks, staring into the eyes of each one of his genin. I'm Yamato. From now on I'll be your sensei. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. He picked up a piece of meat and placed it on Naruto's plate. Uzumaki Naruto, the blonde, picked up the piece of meat and inspected it before popping it into his mouth. I'm kind of new around these parts, so I guess I'll be relying on you guys a lot. Please take care of me. I heard that you're from the land of iron. Shiho squeaked with unhidden enthusiasm, then covered her mouth with her hands, her face starting to brush scarlet. No need to be embarrassed, Yamato said, smiling kindly. We're all teammates now. Shiho looked at Yamato and, seeing his smile, nodded. She put her hands on the table and asked Naruto, what is it like there? Naruto leaned back, carefully formulating an answer. Then he smirked. Cold. It's almost always snowing. The people there are as cold as the weather and stubborn. I guess I consider it my home. I heard that samurais are savages. Shiho whispered. Naruto got a tick mark on his forehead, but he hid it with a smile. We tend to eat the old people when they become useless. It's called recycling. You guys don't do that here? Shiho's jaws opened in horror until she saw Yamato crack a smile. Realizing that Naruto was joking, she sighed, seeming to sink in her seat. Naruto raised an eyebrow, surprised that his joke had been less than well received. I'm Shiho. The girl introduced herself as Yamato placed a slab of meat on her plate. Instead of eating it, she pushed it around the plate, playing with it. I was supposed to be a part of the cryptanalysis squad, but I really wanted to be a regular genin and explore the world a bit before I settled down. Then she looked up again at her team, a goofy smile on her face. I'm looking forward to working with you guys. The three of them tuned their stares to Sai, prompting the boy to begin. I'm Sai. The boy concluded. I haven't really been around a lot of people before, he smiled. I hope you guys will teach me lots of things. His smile stopped a mile before it reached his eyes. Thought Naruto. By the way, Naruto, you don't have a headband yet? Yamato asked while chewing. I have it right here, replied the blonde, producing it from under the table. He tied it around his neck instead of tying it around his head like the others. Shiho gave a curious glance at this. I like to be different, he explained. Are you really a samurai? Shiho's gaze was clearly on the sword. Naruto smiled. No, I just like to carry a sword for fun. Shiho cocked her head to the other side, not understanding that it was a joke, wondering why anyone would carry a sword for just fun. Sai still had the smile plastered on his face, and Yamato had ignored the jibe altogether. Naruto sighed. This team had a long way to go. I'm sending you guys on a C-rank mission. Think you guys are up for it? Shiho nearly leapt for joy. She and her team stood in front of the third Hokage's desk here for their first mission. Shiho had steeled herself as she crawled out of bed that morning that no matter what type of D-rank mission they got, she would not complain. She would do the D-rank missions, as many as they took, to get out of the village and live that life that she craved for. A life filled with adventure and action, quite different from spending hours sitting on her butt looking over old manuscripts and reference books. But she had never expected a C-rank mission from the Hokage on their first day. Sarutobi had thought long and hard about this. The team was comprised of 3 highly skilled individuals. Yamato was a former member of the A and B unit, his duty suspended only because of this special mission to watch over the 3 genin. Sai, a member of Root, and he was no doubt just as talented if not downright a genius. Danzo wasn't someone who tolerated incompetence, and he wouldn't give a boy who was Sai's age a mission without being sure of his skill as a shinobi. Naruto had trained under a samurai for the last 4 years, and he was no doubt more than capable of handling himself. He had almost felt bad seeing Shiho on this team, but he knew Yamato had a weak heart for kids and would train her thoroughly even if that wasn't his actual mission. He didn't want to waste their time by giving them D-rank missions. Besides Shiho, they were more than capable of handling themselves in a fight. Besides, he wanted Yamato to report back to him about Naruto's capabilities. Here's a scroll. A man known as Iruka handed them a scroll, describing the missions that they had to accomplish. You are to deliver this scroll to a temple on the border of Fire Country and Earth Country. There you will hand it to the head monk, who will give it to a Wadaki representative. You shouldn't make any contact with their representatives if all goes well. I was actually going to give this mission to Team 7, the Hokage explained. But they've taken a different mission. So I'm giving this one to you guys. Naruto wasn't really listening, trying to remember the man. He had been in the academy since he was a little boy and he remembered being taught a little from the Chonin, but he wasn't too sure if this man was the same man who was his teacher from the years back. But even if you do make contact, don't be too alarmed. Iruka continued. He found the blonde's stare a bit disconcerting, but he ignored it. There'll be a genin team as well, or a team of chunins at best. There shouldn't be any conflict on this trip as our relationship with them have been good as of late. He smiled at them. Good luck, Team 13. The 4 walked out of the Hokage Tower like the day before when they had just met each other. I'll meet you guys at the South Gate in an hour. Yamato put the scroll deep inside his flak jacket's inner pocket near his heart. I'll see you then. Focus on essentials such as a sleeping bag, medical supply and a water bottle. You won't need much else since we'll make stops along the way. I'll see you guys soon. The jounin disappeared in a puff of smoke. I'll see you guys soon, Naruto muttered, waving to his teammates. Then just as he was about to leave, someone called out to them. Hey losers, are you guys the new team that we've been hearing so much about? Naruto and Sai turned towards the source of the voice. Shiho had already been facing that direction and snapped her head towards the ground, staring right at the space in between her shoes. The boy walking towards them had an arrogant air to his walk. He was wearing a beige-colored jacket with fur around the hood. He had black hair and eyes that belonged more on a wolf than a person. There was a tiny puppy that was walking near his feet that seemed to have the same smirk as his master. The boy had a triangular mark on either cheek. He was followed by 2 genin, most likely his teammates. There was a girl with clear opaque eyes, wearing a beige jacket. She had dark hair that ended a bit before her shoulders. She, like Naruto, had her headband tied around her neck. The other boy's features were hard to see due to the high collar of his jacket and the sunglasses resting on the bridge of his nose. He had bushy dark brown hair, the height on his forehead keeping it in check. Naruto vaguely remembered the boy and the other 2. He remembered a boy who always came to the academy with a white puppy. It looked a bit bigger than he remembered, but it had been 4 years after all. Hey Shiho, the boy had a cocky smile. I thought you were going to sit at the cryptanalysis lab and stay there like the good little nerd you are. Hi Kibaku, and Shiho inched away from the view of the boy. Her stare of the floor never left. Naruto frowned. I can't believe you have a team now, not that they look that strong anyways. He laughed, loud and harsh, peering at each of them. I mean, no one worth a damn would want to team up with a talentless shinobi like you anyways. Are you guys off to pick some potatoes or something? Naruto's eyes turned flat, and he looked at Sai, who was smiling, ignoring the jibes. Shiho was too shy or scared to make any reply. I'm going to school this boy. The boy with the dog had his hands in his pockets, and he came up right in front of Naruto, practically shoving his face to Naruto's. He bent down a little, looking up at Naruto, formed the corner of his eyes. So you're that kid who went to the land of iron to become a samurai, no less. So is it true what they say? The boy growled, a glint of humor in his eye. That you guys are savages? Kibaku, the dark-haired girl, whispered. Ignoring him, Naruto turned his face the other way, never taking his eyes off of the boy, and fake whispered to his teammates. Hey, this guy's breath smells like dog. Is he trained? If I tell him to go away, will he go away? What about sit? Kiba's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed, beginning to growl at the blonde. The sound came from deep within his throat, actually shaking the ends of the boy's hair. Naruto stared at this, pleasantly surprised. Sit? The boy's eyes widened in shock once more. How about roll over? Play dead? I bet a coward like you is really good at playing dead while letting your teammates do all the work. Kiba threw a punch, then doubled over in pain. Naruto had grabbed his sword by the scabbard right below the sheath and slammed the end of its handle into the genin's stomach. The genin backed up, clutching his stomach, wheezing for breath. Why, you bastard. You know, guys, he explained to his teammates. You gotta show dogs who's more dominant, or they start trying to take over the house, you know. Got to train them right these days. While he had been speaking, he had taken out his sword from the sash around his waist, holding it by the scabbard. Kiba yelled in anger and ran towards Naruto, one fist cocked behind his head. Naruto sidestepped the punch neatly, sticking his foot out and tripping the boy. Kiba fell on the ground, managing to keep himself from smashing his nose on the floor by putting his hands out. He looked back, his eyes screaming bloody murder, until Naruto struck right in between his eyes with the sword. Kiba fell back, screaming in pain and clutching the head. Naruto had the same smile on his face, spinning the sword with both arms, using it like a staff. Is your dog going to join the fight? Because if he doesn't, I'm pretty sure I'm going to kick your ass. You bastard! Kiba stood up, swaying to each side a little. His eyes were tearing up with pain, and there was a big red mark in between his eyes where the bridge of his nose began. I'll kill you! The boy launched himself towards Naruto, taking out a kunai out of his holster and holding it in front of his body in a reverse grip. He swung it in front of him, trying to slash Naruto across the chest. Instead of blocking the slash as Kiba had wanted him to, Naruto jerked his body backwards, narrowly dodging the strike. Before Kiba could react, Naruto's hand whipped forward like a snake with a thrust, the sword stabbing into Kiba's Adam's apple. Kiba made a choking sound, trying to grasp his throat with his hand, however Naruto pressed forward. The Inazaka began to backpedal, trying to gain distance from the blonde. However, the blonde walked faster than Kiba could walk backwards, continuing to press down on the boy's throat. Kiba fell backwards and grabbed the end of the sword, trying to move it, but Naruto leaned forward, placing his whole weight on it so that the other boy couldn't even budge the weapon. Naruto leaned down, whispering into the choking boy's ear. I don't even need to unsheath my sword in front of you, scum. If you diss me or my teammates ever again, I'll show you what I can do without the scabbard. The blonde withdrew, taking the point of his sword away from Kiba's throat. Kiba began to roll around to the side, holding his throat and choking. Akamaru patted over, whining and licking his owner's blue face. And Naruto, Shiho thought, her hands gathered together. That was so touching. Sai watched this, and for once his smile was gone. I couldn't see his real skills, but now I know he's not a normal genin, at least. The way he wielded the sword, it was clearly above genin level, yet to him it looked like he wasn't serious. I wonder how strong he actually is. Hinata made a movement to go over and help. Shino stopped her with an arm. He deserved that. Hinata, he'll learn from this. Never engage an enemy until you are aware of their strength. The Hyuga heiress fidgeted for a moment in indecision before following her teammate's advice. Come on guys, Naruto left the Inazaka behind. We've got to pack. Naruto arrived at the east gate, seeing the rest of his team waiting for him. But the scene that greeted him was less than satisfactory to him. Yamato sat on a rock, his arms crossed in front of him. His backpack was next to him, left on the ground and apparently forgotten. Yamato had a stern expression on his face, and as the cheerful Naruto skipped out of the gate he froze, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. Both Sai and Shiho was in front of Yamato, kneeling in front of him. Shiho looked like she was about to cry, her hands trembling and clutching the cloth on her knees. Sai was smiling as usual. Yamato didn't need to say a word. He just looked at Naruto and at the ground next to Shiho. Naruto walked over to Shiho and stood next to her, the sweat drop on his head bigger than his head itself. Kneel. Naruto obeyed, feeling like something bad was going to happen if he didn't. We've been a team for one day. Yamato closed his eyes and began. And already you guys are causing trouble. Naruto, your teammates haven't ratted you out, but the Inazaka boy clearly pointed towards you as the main attacker. Naruto didn't do anything. Shiho spoke up. Kiba-kun started it first. Yamato silenced her with a look. Anything to say for yourself, Naruto? The blonde sighed. I mean, I could say I'm sorry, but I hate to lie, but I'll say it to the dog boy if it'll make him feel better. Yamato groaned and pinched the bridge of his nose. Naruto, I'm starting to think that the only thing you learned under the samurais was to mouth off. Maybe I did, he shrugged. Maybe I didn't. Yamato's face was suddenly only inches away from Naruto's. Something had happened to Yamato's face. There were some shadows on his face that weren't there before. His eyes were wide and emotionless. The three genin, each of them shocked, surprised and scared more than they had ever been before. I'm not above ruling through terror, and if I have to, I will rule this team through terror. Though his face was only aimed at Naruto, both Shiho and Sai felt scared as well. Sai's smile had actually melted off of his face. Okay. Naruto agreed, his eyes wide. I am sorry. Yamato returned to his normal face, flashing a grin at the genin. Okay, as long as that's understood. He picked up his backpack, putting it on and holding the two straps with both hands. Shall we start walking? We have a long journey ahead of us. The three genin traded looks and gulped. Mostly Shiho and Sai stared at Naruto, clearly telling him through telepathy that it was his fault that they had gone through the ordeal. Team 13 walked through a well-worn dirt path. Though it was nothing new to Naruto, who had traveled into Konoha only a day or so ago, to Shiho it was a scene that she had been envisioning her whole life. The thick forestry fascinated the girl, who stared at everything with absolute wonder and scrutiny, though her eyes were hidden behind the glasses with swirls tinted on them. Through the movement of her head Naruto could tell that the girl was trying to look at everything without missing a single detail, while Shiho muttered, "This is so cool, it's like we're characters in some fantasy novel or adventure book. I'm so excited. Is this your first time out of the village?" asked Sai, flashing her a smile. Yeah. Shiho, once they got to know her, had been a nice enough girl, though she was a bit strange. Naruto assumed that she had been bullied in the academy. Whether it was for her personality or lack of talent in ninjutsu he didn't know, but it was clear from her reaction towards Kiba, who was probably one of them, that she had not enjoyed her academy years. So Naruto tried to be extra nice to her. I always wanted to leave the village, but Shiho sighed. My parents' jobs don't really let them leave the village too much. My dad used to be part of the cryptanalysis squad with my mom, but now they just run the Konoha library. Not much travel in my family, but that's why I wanted to be a shinobi so bad. That's why when Yamato-sensei asked me if I was interested in being a normal genin and go on missions like everyone else, I was super excited. Naruto made a sympathetic noise. So that means you're not really a battle-oriented ninja, huh? Though the comment had been made in a casual manner, Naruto had meant every word. He was truly curious about the kunoichi's capabilities as a shinobi. Yamato began to pay attention to the conversation, sensing it becoming interesting. Sai did the same. Yes, Shiho hung her head. I'm not really good at ninjutsu or taijutsu, and even my chakra control is terrible. I barely passed the genin test. The reason why I went to the cryptanalysis squad was partly because my parents thought I wouldn't be able to survive out here. Sai stopped reading the book in front of his face, giving Naruto a chance to read the title. It read How to Make Friends. Seeing the title, Naruto's sweat dropped. Everyone has something they're good at, and stuff they're bad at. I'm sure you've yet to find something that you're good at. Sai smiled as he said this. This team's completely dysfunctional, Naruto thought. Even without looking he knew that Sai was doing what the book had told him to do. Yeah, but I already know what I'm good at. Shiho seemed even more depressed than before. I'm good at analysis of riddles and words, that's all I'm good at. A useless skill in battle. Well, glasses, Sai began to read the book once more. That maybe you shouldn't be here. Then he hid his face behind the book and began to read once more. Did he just call you glasses? Naruto asked Shiho. Shiho sighed. Yeah, he named Kiba Mutt, Shino faceless, and Hinata dark creepy weirdo. I think he does that to everyone. He's been referring to you as Blondie with the mouth whenever you're out of earshot. The book says that nicknames could help bring one closer to another person and make rapid progress in their friendships. Nicknames are reserved for the closest of friends. Sai looked at each of them, peering from the top of his book. Since we are a team, I only thought it natural that I give you guys nicknames. Yeah, Naruto deadpanned. You do that. The team continued to walk, making small talk and general bickering until the sun set. They had walked a pretty long distance away from Konoha. The trees became more sparse and thinner as they neared Earth Country. The path became less dirt and more rock until the trees were replaced with rocks, the greenery becoming less and less frequent as they continued to walk. The road became more of uphill and the genin began to tire, the day's fatigue wearing on them, the uphill track making it even more tiring. They made the hard uphill track too tired to make any type of noise along the way. As Sensei Shiho was the first to break the silence. Can we rest please? Sorry Shiho. Yamato found that he was sweating as well. They had been walking the whole day with the heavy backpacks, and if he found it to be a bit harder than expected, he could only imagine how hard the genin had it. But this place is too open. We're very close to Earth Country now, and around the borders roam a lot of missing nins. The blonde turned his head to the side. What are missing nin? You didn't learn about that during your samurai training? Yamato had thought Naruto had been trained thoroughly in everything, but he had forgotten that samurai were taught in a different manner than shinobi. Since samurai rarely had contact with other ninja, they wouldn't have to have much information about them. I learned about being a samurai. Naruto deadpanned. They didn't exactly cover ninja terms during training. Missing ninja are shinobi that have betrayed their villages. As a result, a lot of them end up defecting for other villages, selling their village secrets or working for underground associations. The villages usually declare a bounty for these ninja. Yamato looked at Naruto, making sure his meanings were clear. Missing nins are the most dangerous things out there since they work for no one and have no clear allegiance. You can never know what it is they want or be sure of where their loyalties lie. Naruto's eyes turned flat. What's wrong, Naruto? Shiho asked the blonde, seeing his expression. Get back, Naruto. Takizo muttered to the blonde, his arm holding him back. The blonde fell back on his butt, and was already in the process of falling when the attack had begun. Naruto stared, eyes wide at what had just happened to him and his master. He was also shaking from the sheer aura of the man that stood before them. The man's killing intent. No, killing intent was when the person wanted to kill you. This man just wanted to battle and nothing else. He was here to test his skills against his master and defeat him, but if that meant he killed Takizo, then so be it. Naruto shook from the battle spirit of the man that filled the small wooden clearing. His master, and he had been on the road to a small village on the outskirts of the village in the land of iron when the man appeared in front of them. Naruto didn't even get a good look at the man as he simply drew his sword and slashed towards them. Takizo had blocked the strike and saved Naruto in the process. The only thing Naruto saw were the man's lavender-colored eyes with rings going around them. Musashi, no, I mean Takizo. The man muttered, his sword drawn. I will defeat you here and end this cursed tradition. Takizo drew his sword, the Hanakage, a guard made of 8 rounded shapes resembling flower petals. The blade, unlike other katana though it was shaped like one, was straight including the scabbard. It seems that the day has finally come. Takizo placed himself in front of Naruto, his legs spread to either side. I was hoping my disciple would be the one to defeat you. That whelp? He's but a child. The man's eyes widened and his voice gained a new edge. Before it had been filled with a different type of tone, low and threatening, but now he sounded surprised. Takizo nodded. But I can't leave the curse of our generation with our disciple. I'll end this with us, my fellow disciple. Naruto hissed in pain, clutching the side of his temple. It's nothing, just remembering a rather unpleasant memory. He glanced at Yamato. So they're like vagrants in the samurai world? Swordsmen who move without honor, without loyalty to anything, and just cuts down those who they wish. In a sense, yes. Yamato agreed. While they had been talking, the uphill road had smoothed into a flat one, though it was still littered with stones and the occasional large boulder. There was an open space in between the rocks, large enough to situate the 4 of them. Yamato glanced at this and at his students. Since we're tired, why don't we rest here for today? Finally. Shiho whispered, her body drenched with sweat. She fell forward, clutching her bag. Just let me rest for a bit on this nice patch of ground. Naruto leaned on a rock, grimacing at the prospect of sleeping on the hard floor littered with stones. It's going to take a while to get rid of all the rocks. The blonde sighed. Yamato smiled at his students and knelt down, forming hand seals while his students looked on in interest. Mokutan, Shichuka no Jutsu. Would release, 4-pillar house technique, the Jounin whispered, placing both of his hands on the ground, palms open. Naruto stared, his jaws dropping as wooden pillars began to rise out of the ground, accompanied by low rumbling resembling a small earthquake. The pillars, though made of wood, moved as if they were rubber, twirling and winding around each other like snakes. Sai put a fist to block his face from the debris that were flying towards them. However, he didn't have to do it for long. The wooden pillars had finished moving, and in their place was a 2-story house. In front of the house was a small plate above the doorway with the Konoha's insignia on it. Welcome to your lodge for the night. Yamato smiled, seeing the surprised looks on his students' faces. He turned toward Shiho. There's a hot tub in the back so you guys can wash yourselves there. I thought there were rogue ninja running around this countryside. Naruto's eyes were glued to the house, but Yamato saw him choosing his words carefully. Isn't this like an open invitation, like telling them that we are right here? No, I've made sure to make precautions, Yamato said with an air of confidence. Shiho had already disappeared into the house as soon as he had mentioned the words hot tub. Let's go and get ourselves situated too. But don't worry, we'll be taking watches throughout the night. Team 13, minus Shiho, who had already gone in, entered the house feeling a new sense of respect for their sensei. They missed a single figure who stood in the rocks observing them unseen. He was covered in shadow due to the size of the rocks, and because he stood in the shadow of one, the moon was also conveniently covered by the clouds. But as the team entered the lodging, the moon came out from the cover of the clouds, its light piercing the prevalent darkness, and revealing the figure who had been watching them. He was of medium build, or so it looked because of his loose clothing. He had a shark-like top complete with a hood which resembled a shark's jaws. On his back there was a dorsal fin, completing the shark-like look. There were red markings on the side of the hood similar to the red markings on either side of his face. He was wearing dark pants, his hands shoved into the pockets. He had a smirk on his face while looking at the house. So that's the genin that Orochimaru wants me to test. He took out a hand from his pocket and gripped the house in his hand in his eye, the distance making it seem as if he was crushing it. He did tell me to try my best, don't blame me if I end up killing him. He closed his fist, and in his eyes, the house had been broken into splinters. The three genins slept in their sleeping bags, comforted by the warmth and the knowledge that their sensei was watching over them. In actuality, Shiho was the only one who slept in her bedroll. Sai was on the rooftop, drawing some pictures on his pad. Naruto sat in the corner, dozing lightly, his arms crossed in front of him, his hands in the opposite arm's sleeves. Lying against his chest was his sword. Sai looked into the sky, drawing a picture of the moon outlined against the clouds. Slightly below the sky lay the landscape, each brushstroke capturing a rock of a hidden trail that he saw. He was so absorbed in the drawing that he didn't even notice that Yamato had snuck up right behind him and was peering from behind his shoulder. Sai continued to draw, even working up a bit of sweat from the concentration. Yamato stared for a while longer, staying behind Sai. I read from the book that it's rude to stare, Sai muttered, continuing to work on the drawing. He had noticed the jounin minutes ago. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. Yamato cleared his throat as Sai began to pack up his stuff. There's some stuff we need to talk about. Sai remained silent, continuing to put stuff back into his bag. Taking this as a sign to continue, Yamato began to explain. I know you're here on Danzo's orders, Sai said Yamato. That you were placed here to observe Naruto. Sai finished packing up his stuff. He quickly stuffed the scroll into a holster, and his brushes into a case, putting it into his bags. He turned towards Yamato, his smile wiped off of his face. From the time that Yamato had seen him, it was the most serious that he had ever been. He noticed that Sai had a hand behind him, trying to keep it out of sight of Yamato. Yamato sighed. Sai, frankly speaking, there's a big difference between us in terms of strength. But I also know that you were in the root training division and is one of the best that Danzo had to offer, or you wouldn't be here. Yamato looked at the moon. I just want you to know, Sai, that it doesn't have to be on Danzo's orders that you are here. He smiled at the genin, shocking him. Here, you have a chance to make bonds, friends and family, and become stronger. He placed a hand on the genin's shoulder. Yamato-san. Sai turned around, brushing the hand off, and plastered a smile on his face. Yamato grimaced. In Root we are taught things. One of the most important lessons of Root is what is unneeded. Emotions, family, bonds, and a sense of self. There exists none of those things. What exists is not ourselves, but the mission itself, and on a greater scale the protection and safety of the village. That is the purpose of us Root members. We may not shine in the sun as the bright leaves of Konoha, forming bonds and helping one another sustain the tree, Sai continued, but we are the roots in the darkness, isolated and dirty. We are the underbelly of Konoha. Though some might consider us to be evil or tools, isn't that what a shinobi is? Leaves fall during the winter time, Yamato-san, but the root remains. The root is what keeps the tree balanced. Whether summer or winter, the root is what takes the nutrients from the ground and provides the energy for the tree and for the leaves. Yamato watched as the boys spoke. He rattled off as if these were facts that he had repeated to himself so many times that it was now simply a part of him. Sai had thought and said these things to himself so many times that he didn't care if it was true or not. It was his reality, and nothing more. But Sai's words had a ring of truth to them. It was true that Konoha needed the roots. Despite how they were despised and looked down upon, they were an important part of Konoha. They never did anything to hurt the village. They simply looked at things in a more cut and dry way, black and white. It was either a danger to the village or not. It was a dangerous way of thinking, yet Hiruzen Sarutobi had allowed their existence because they too were Konoha shinobi that worked to protect the will of fire, Yamato whispered. I don't doubt that root is necessary. However, there is no need for you to isolate yourself and mask your emotions like this. A shinobi must have no emotions. Sai whispered. The shinobi laws must be kept or you are useless, no worse than useless. Yamato felt a smile tug on the corner of his lips. Yamato stretched back up to his full height, stretching his back and looking at Sai in the eye. You're right, he said. Those who break the rules are trash, but a great man once told me those who don't protect their comrades are worse than trash. Leaving those words for Sai to mull over, Yamato left. Sai looked at the palm of his hand, his head cocked to the side. Friends and family, he mused. Family. Naruto stood at the entrance of the house underneath the nameplate, his sword cradled in the crook of his arms which were crossed in front of him. He had heard the whole conversation, though it was unknown to the two shinobi. He looked up at the moon. Rules and emotions, huh? The blonde mused. Is that what a shinobi is? The four Konoha ninja had resumed walking. Shiho had bed hair and slouched over, still feeling the after-effects of being deep in sleep. Naruto showed no difference while Sai just looked to be deep in thought, the fake smile from the day before having been wiped off of his face. Yamato stood in the front, walking as though nothing had happened. He paused once in a while to point something out to his students, explaining things about Iwagakure no Sato and the Third Shinobi War. We're very near the battlefield where the Fourth Hokage earned the nickname, the Yellow Flash of Konoha. It was the first place where he displayed the technique that he is famous for, Hiraishin no Jutsu. Thunder God technique, Yamato explained, pointing off to the distance. It was the first time his jutsu was displayed. Many people were doubtful that such a technique was possible, for it defied logic. Do you know who the Fourth Hokage is? Shiho whispered to Naruto, who seemed to be lost in thought. The blonde nodded, vaguely. In our history lessons we go over the Third Shinobi War because it was one where even the samurai were involved. He narrowed his eyes. It was a war where Konoha made a lot of underhanded deals that ended up involving a lot of different villages. In the end it was Konoha that came out on top and became the superpower that it is today. Shiho listened to Naruto's explanation fascinated. It always amazed her to hear the other side's opinion, the thoughts of the underdog. She had read enough history books to know that they were all written in the opinion of Konoha ninja with the facts twisted a little bit. It didn't make her disappointed in Konoha one bit. After all ninja villages did this to a certain extent. It's just that Konoha shinobi were a bit more hypocritical of this than other villages. What other things did Konoha do? Shiho asked. Sai stopped musing and turned his attention to the two, even Yamato pausing in interest. A bunch of things. Naruto folded his arms behind his head. Konoha was frequently in the midst of a lot of chaos, the Fourth Hokage, as well as the three Sannin of Konohagakure. These four were possibly the four strongest shinobi of that time, not to mention Konoha had the two most fearsome clans in terms of Jujutsu, the Uchiha and the Hyuga. They divided their forces with devastating results, emerging victorious in almost every battle. Kirigakure no Sato, possibly the only village that could match Konoha simply because of the sheer amount of shinobi that they had, began to descend into further chaos which eventually erupted into the civil war afterwards. They blamed this on the Mizukage, who was told to have a special type of chakra. Naruto sighed. We were heavily involved in battle with Kirigakure no Sato and Amigakure no Sato. We didn't make much contact with Konoha or the other three villages. Shiho nodded. Yamato was impressed with the extent of Naruto's knowledge. He had a feeling that though Naruto was missing the necessary details to really explain what happened, he had a general understanding of the war. For someone who had no lived through it, it was an impressive display of knowledge. He looked at Sai, gauging the genin's reaction, but if Sai was surprised he did not show it. When Naruto had mentioned underhanded deals, although it was unknown to him, he was talking about the Root Division of Konoha. The Root Division had been in charge of making deals with other villages, though allowed by the Hokage, behind the village's back. This allowed the village to be free of any responsibility that the other villages might try to pin on Konoha. It was an underhanded method but a necessary one in order to protect the village. Well, in the war Konoha got a very advantageous position, Yamato mused almost to himself. Which is why we have a flow of clients. Konoha has always been a very powerful village, but after the war more so. You could say that it was only because the war ended that we could have missions like this without a sense of danger so close to another village's borders. I wouldn't count on that. A man appeared on top of the rocks in front of them. He was wearing strange clothing that resembled a shark's. He had his arms crossed in front of his chest and was looking down at them, the sun at his back. Yamato instantly gazed at their surroundings. They were surrounded by huge rocks, and he saw enemy ninja appearing, fast. He cursed himself for not noticing them earlier, but the rocks absorbed vibrations from the ground. Also, these shinobi had appeared without a sound. He didn't have a sense of smell like other ninja, but he should still have been able to sense their presence before being ambushed in such a disadvantageous position like this. Other ninja began to appear from behind rocks and on top of them. Yamato counted around 10. Among them 2 of them showed extraordinary chakra signatures. There was a boy about Naruto's age that had 3 tufts of orange hair. He wore a sleeveless tunic with a weird yin-yang symbol engraved on it. The boy was fairly tall and wide for his age, and his eyes showed an air of arrogance that was rare in someone so young. That meant that this boy was not only fairly confident in his own strength, he proved it many times before. He had a purple rope around his waist tied into a ribbon at the back. The other was a boy with dark skin and black eyes. One thing that struck Yamato as odd was that the boy had 2 extra pair of arms, adding up to 6 arms on his whole body. He wore the same clothes as the other one, except that he had a high 8 on his forehead with a melody note on it. He had a cocky smirk on his face just like the other one. This is bad. Yamato looked around them. Along with the 3 ninja who were obviously the stronger ones, there were 3 other shinobi around them, all of them bearing the marks of Otogeki no Sato. Although they had 4 on their side, realistically Shiho was useless in this battle. Yamato had not had time to really train her in anything. He looked at Sai and Naruto, who was staring around them with their eyes narrowed. Kajika-san, the fat one said to the one wearing the shark outfit. Which one's our target? The man nodded towards Sai. That one in the black. He smiled at Yamato. I'll take care of the Jounin Jirobo. He gestured to the fat one and then the one with 6 arms. Kidamaru, you two take care of the blonde and the girl. The other 3 can take Sasuke. He sent a look to each ninja. Orochimaru-sama wants him alive, remember that. Yamato narrowed his eyes. If they had been looking for Sasuke, it was no secret about Orochimaru. For Yamato especially, he made sure that he was up to the latest news and gossip that involved the snake Sannin. Rumors were that he'd set sights on a new body, the Uchiha boy. He remembered back to the Hokage's office when he heard him say that Team 7 was supposed to get this mission. They had a spy in Konoha. Yamato gritted his teeth. Naruto, I suggest you unsheath your sword. Yamato muttered, then he looked at Sai. The genin nodded and took out a paintbrush and paper, drawing a picture on it before anyone could say anything. Ninpo, Choju Giga. Ninja arts, super beast imitating drawing, Sai whispered. From the scroll emerged a gigantic lion, while seemingly cartoonish in nature because of its color theme, black and white. When it roared, there was nothing funny about the drawing coming to life. Sai quickly leaped on top of it, and the lion gave another roar before leaping over the group of Soundnins and running away, leaving sounds of its paws patting on the hard rock surface. After him, Kajika said with flat eyes to the 3 nameless Oto ninja. They obeyed immediately, making great bounds and leaps over the rocks to chase after their Sasuke. Naruto remained silent. Then the battle started. Yamato and Kajika, as an unspoken rule, leaped out of the clearing, both of them wanting to battle without interruption from the other weaker ninja. I'll be back soon, please be okay. Naruto gripped the handle of his sword as the ones called Kidamaru Aad Jirobo jumped off of the rocks. Shiho took out a kunai, holding it in a reverse grip. Though she looked determined, she was shaking so bad that Naruto wondered if she would faint from sheer shock. Hey, the girl's mine. The one called Kidamaru licked a thumb. I love it when they scream. Kajika-san told us we can do whatever we want with these ones, right? Jirobo nodded. Then I guess I'll take the blonde one. He gestured towards Naruto. Come on, trash. I'll kill you painlessly. Naruto sighed and looked at Shiho. Sorry about this. Naruto disappeared from sight and appeared behind the frightened girl. He hit her in the back of the back with the handle of his sword, which was still encased in its scabbard. Shiho fell to the ground, her eyes rolling back and most definitely unconscious. Kidamaru cocked his head to the side. You just took my prey from me, then kill me first, you insect. Naruto smirked. She'll just get in the way anyways. Jirobo, this one's mine. Hey, you just told me. What was back? Kidamaru looked back at Jirobo, his eyes bloodshot and crazed. Never mind. Jirobo turned his gaze to the ground. The world was ruled by strength and nothing else. He knew that was the way of the sound, and it was enforced quite strictly. Come on, you freak, Naruto whispered as he drew his sword. I'll gut you like the insect that you are. Kidamaru looked around at the surroundings. The rocks were high but not exactly ideal for his techniques. Then he stared at the genin in front of him. No need to go all out, he smirked and lowered himself to the ground before throwing himself at Naruto. Naruto dodged the initial punch, then weaved to the side as Kidamaru began to throw punches with all 6 of his arms. Naruto dodged every single one, ducking, weaving and constantly moving, never letting a fist even scrape the edge of his clothing. The blonde didn't bother to use his sword, finding that his speed was enough. Kidamaru leaped backwards, sweating and panting slightly. His eyes were wide with surprise and rage. This kid. Naruto raised his sword to his side. That's about done for the warm-up, ready for round 2. He smirked at the Oto ninja. By the way, if you want to stand a chance against me, I suggest you come at me at the same time. I'm going to fucking kill you. Kidamaru gathered his 6 arms to his mouth, getting ready to use a technique. Naruto didn't give him the chance. Naruto stabbed his sword into the ground. Right in front of Kidamaru, a spike made of chakra exploded out of the ground, thin as paper yet skewering all 6 of his hands and holding them in place. Kidamaru howled with pain, all 6 of his hands pinned by one chakra blade. Naruto doubled over in pain as Jirobo appeared next to him and kneed him in the stomach. He felt tears stinging the corners of his eyes from the strength of the chakra-enhanced blow. Then the Oto ninja grabbed Naruto's face and threw him across the clearing, the blonde slamming into a rock and shattering into pieces. Kidamaru kneeled on the ground, looking at the palm of his hands, each of them bloodied with a paper-thin hole in them. Are you okay, Kidamaru? That trash fucking cut me, Kidamaru snarled, getting to his feet once more. He used a simple technique to make his hands stop hurting, something that was more mental than ninja art. I'll fucking kill him. Naruto walked out of the rubble, seemingly unhurt. His eyes were flat. Let's go at him together. Jirobo muttered, feeling cold all of a sudden. The blue eyes were staring right at him. I don't like this. Kidamaru felt the blonde's aura change. Something was different. I'll snipe him from far. Kidamaru nodded. He suddenly wanted to end this fight very badly. Go. Jirobo rushed towards Naruto again. Naruto sheathed his sword partially and held it in front of him horizontally, one hand on the handle and the other on the scabbard. He left about an inch or two of the blade unsheathed. Sora no Mai and Jetsu. Dance of Sky, Crescent Moon. Naruto snapped the blade shut, sheathing the whole thing. Jirobo's body exploded into blood, flying backwards towards Kidamaru. The Spider Boy stopped whatever he had been about to do and stared as his teammate's body landed next to him. There was a cut on his chest from one end to the other, perfectly straight and blood continuing to pump out of his body. Jirobo was still alive though, and his eyes looked at Kidamaru, filled with unbelief at what had just happened to him. Even as his body continued to shiver and convulse, he stared at Kidamaru, almost blaming the stronger ninja for sending him in first. He stared at Naruto, who had sheathed his sword. All he did was sheath about 2 inches of his sword, and Jirobo wasn't anywhere near him, but something hit him. What the fuck? Are you scared? Whispered Naruto's voice from behind the ninja. Kidamaru froze with fear, apprehension dawning in his face. Fast. Naruto stabbed his sword into the ground, saying, Ryu no Mai, Kuroria Sion. Dance of Dragon, Black Dragon Ascension. Chakra exploded out of the ground right beneath Kidamaru. Something unidentifiable grabbed Kidamaru and lifted him up into the air, formless and black. It was roiling and misty, like a pillar of black cloud, yet it had been tangible enough to lift the Oto ninja and carry him up into the air. In the air, the part holding Kidamaru turned into a dragon's head, its jaws wide open. Then it snapped shut. Kidamaru didn't get a chance to scream. Kidamaru's body fell to the ground like a rag doll, falling on his chest and his 6 arms, moving around lifelessly. His body sported numerous burn-like wounds, different from fire but no less deadly. There was a bite mark that extended from his upper torso to his lower legs, resembling the jaw of a shark, yet the holes caused by the fangs looked as if somebody had stabbed him with a giant pole. Yet his chest rose and fell with life, just as Jirobo's. Naruto sheathed his sword, picking up the Shiho's unconscious body and walking towards the sound of battle. Shiho shivered with fear, having witnessed Naruto's power just now. Sai stood up, having stabbed the neck of the shinobi that he had just finished battling with. He stabbed his tanto into the durst, wiping the blood from it. He drew it back and sheathed it. There was a rustle. Sai threw a few shurikens in that direction, redrawing his tanto and readying himself to rush towards his opponent. He stopped, however, seeing that it was none other than Yamato. But he didn't release the grip on his tanto. You killed them all, I see. Yamato left the rest of the sentence unsaid, though he couldn't keep the bitterness out of his voice. Prove that you're Yamato. Sai's eyes were flat. Yamato raised an arm and it turned into wood, swinging around the air for a bit before returning to its original form. Sai nodded, satisfied, and sheathed his tanto once more. They were sound ninja. They had to be killed. They weren't going to kill you, Yamato replied. Sai shrugged. I eliminate all threats to Konoha. Not just threats to myself. Yamato couldn't really reply at that. Naruto walked into the clearing, carrying Shiho on one shoulder. Naruto! Yamato muttered, walking over to the blonde as he released Shiho, leaning her against the rock. Are you alright? I'm fine. Naruto looked at the dead bodies, then looked at Sai. You did this? Sai nodded. I did. Why? They weren't going to kill you, we all heard it. Because they are a threat to Konoha. Sai smiled at Naruto. Naruto grew annoyed. Don't flash that fucking fake smile at me, you bastard, he snarled. I hate it when you do that. Don't you feel remorse? They're only our age. It was true, the sound ninja had been genin just like them. Yet Sai had killed them without blinking, and he had the gall to smile. Remorse? Sai cocked his head to the side, the smile still on his face. What is that? Naruto's eyes widened. Why, you were telling the truth. Sai nodded. Just as you eavesdropped on our conversation the other night, yes. I am a member of Root. I have no emotions. Naruto processed this. Why? Because it's necessary, Naruto. Sai turned away from Naruto's blue eyes. Something about their clarity made him feel uncomfortable. Because it's necessary. Naruto looked at his sword and the 2 sound ninja he had just defeated. They had been strong, but they had underestimated Naruto. Naruto simply had not given them a chance to show their full strength. He had left them alive because he didn't really know anything about the relationship between Otogakure and Konohagakure except that it was bad. He looked at Sai and at the unconscious Shiho, the first friends he had made in his entire life. He closed his eyes, remembering. Naruto was swinging a wooden sword in front of Takizo, who sat on a nearby rock, fanning himself with a small fan. Naruto's body was drenched with sweat, and he had abandoned his shirt a long time ago. With a loud yell, Naruto swung forward, bringing his sword down on the head of an imaginary opponent. Takizo observed this. Come on, Naruto, you're trying to split his head open from head to toe, not give him a light tap. The blonde stopped. Takizo frowned. Hey Takizo-sensei? What is it? Takizo by now should have thrown something at Naruto, called him a sissy for stopping because he was tired, but something in the blonde's tone didn't let him. Why did you kill that man? Takizo nodded. He had been expecting the question. On their way to this forest they had encountered a missing ninja from Amigekyo no Sato. He had attacked them with a speed and ferocity that surprised even Takizo. Reacting on instinct, Mousashi had drawn his sword about 3 inches out of the scabbard and enclosed it again. He had used Sora no Mai and Jetsu, Dance of Sky, Crescent Moon, and cut the shinobi from head to toe instantly. The shinobi never felt a thing. Takizo had never panicked like that before, but he had seen the shinobi's eyes. What he had wanted had been reflected in his eyes, and it had scared him like never before. He had been looking at the blonde child walking next to him. Takizo mused, wondering how to answer this question. I killed that man Naruto. Takizo smiled, unable to believe that he was about to say something cheesy. Because I wanted to protect someone who was precious to me. He walked over and poked Naruto on the forehead. You. Naruto thought about this for a second. Takizo gave him time. He was still a child and the samurai didn't expect a lot out of him. Am I your only precious person? Takizo crossed his arms, walking back to the rock and sitting down. No, I once had a friend, a man that I would have called my brother. He was my friend and I risked my life to fight for him and protect him. I still would, but he's no longer in this world. Takizo closed his one good eye, remembering the blonde Namikaze. He opened it again and smiled at Naruto. I know you didn't really make friends at an iron country, but one day you will meet some people whom you can call friends. They might be annoying or not consider you as their friend, but they'll be your precious people. You might find yourself wanting to do irrational things for them. I don't get it. You will, Takizo said with a sad smile. You will. Friends are a precious thing, protect them, Naruto, even if it is from themselves. Naruto looked at Sai. Never taking his eyes off of Sai, Naruto asked. Who makes the rules in the village, sensei? That's Hokage-sama, Naruto. The blonde nodded. Sai, Naruto told his first friend. We're not that close right now, but a man I consider my father told me this, that all friends, no matter who they are precious and should be protected. Even from themselves. He raised a fist pointed at Sai. I'll protect you, Sai, even from yourself. I'll protect everyone from this. I'll become Hokage and make it so that you can have emotions again. I give you my word, Sai. Sai looked at the blonde, his eyes wide with shock. The blonde had just declared to him, someone that he had met yesterday, that he would become Hokage, not for himself or for any other dream, but to give ninjas like Sai a chance to live a normal life with emotion and bonds. He looked into Naruto's eyes, which were not wavering at all. Shiho also stared, leaning on the rock, her eyes wide with shock. No one in her entire life had ever had the guts to declare it. Sure, kids had declared it back at the academy in a joking manner or had played Hokage, pretending to be the strongest ninja in the village, but no one had ever declared it in such a serious manner like Naruto had. Shiho then looked at Yamato to see what he thought of this, then gasped. Yamato had a long gash on his left leg and another one on his arm. He was holding himself upright, but there was a river of blood pooling around him. Naruto noticed this at the same time. I'm putting my dreams and all that aside, he muttered, his eyes widening. I think we should clean that up pretty soon. Naruto watched Yamato sat down on a rock, rolling up his pants and bandaging the cut on his leg. Shiho, standing up, began to bandage the laceration on the Jounin's arm. As she did this, Yamato noticed a bruise on the back of her neck. Frowning, he looked at Naruto, who shrugged, not bothering to explain. Getting the gist of what happened, Yamato promised himself that he'd train the girl first thing as soon as they got back to Konoha. Then he looked at Sai. It didn't take too long to bandage his wounds. We're going to have to be much more careful from now on. Yamato muttered to the genin after clearing his throat to grab their attention. Naruto nodded. He assumed as much. There was a certain disappointed look in Yamato's face, meaning only one thing. Yamato had allowed the sound ninja to escape. Most likely he was berating himself on the inside for letting the enemy get away. But it was a fact that it was the enemy who had escaped, not Yamato. If Yamato had escaped, the enemy would have followed him, and seeing 3 weak genin, he would not have hesitated to attack. Also, there was no way for Yamato to return here with the possibility of leading such a strong ninja right to his students. This meant that the sound ninja had escaped, and Yamato had thought it wiser to not follow. It didn't take long to finish wrapping up Yamato's wounds. Come on, guys, Yamato ordered, standing up, though Naruto thought he saw a flash of pain on the man's face. We have to keep moving. He'll most likely return with reinforcements. He faced Naruto. What happened in your battle? Naruto thought back to Kidamaru and Jirobo, the 2 sound genin that he had fought against. Incapacitated. Naruto smiled wickedly, showing 2 sharp canines. Indefinitely. Yamato nodded, expecting as much. Come on, we don't have much to go if we walk fast enough. The temple is actually situated in Fire Country. It should be around here somewhere. Yamato began walking with Sai and Shiho in tow. Naruto hissed in pain, clutching his right arm with his left hand. Damn it, he thought, grimacing. Takizo's sword Hanakage, Flower Shadow, is rejecting me. He pushed the pain to the back of his mind and followed his team's footsteps. True to Yamato's word, Team 13 did not have to walk more than an hour or 2 to find the entrance to the temple. The temple was surrounded by large rocks, resembling small mountains more than anything else. There was an opening composed of a few stairs that led straight into the temple yard. The temple, though not big, was exquisitely built. The buildings were one of those old mansions, and on each corner of the rooftops, there was a wooden carving of a dragon, its jaws open and a large crystal ball clenched within its fangs. There were a couple of monks that noticed them but did not make any movement. They were busy sweeping the yard. Team 13 climbed the steps, and Naruto noticed that Yamato was growing increasingly pale. He worried for the Jounin but told himself that if he needed help, he would ask for it. Naruto climbed the steps silently, growing more and more excited to see the monk priests that littered the temple yard. The thing that excited him the most were their shining bald heads. He had never seen anyone with a shaved head before and wondered if it would squeak if rubbed the right way. They were greeted by two monks. Both of them, to Naruto, looked identical. Cleanly shaved heads that shone brightly. The older one was about Yamato's age. He was holding some round object that looked like a big bell. In his other hand he held a small club-looking piece of wood that he waved to hit the wooden bell as he bowed towards them. It produced a clear sound, reminding him of a woodpecker's call. He was dressed in a robe of yellow with a red sash that went from his right shoulder to left hip, wrapped around his torso. He had a pleasant face, that looked as if he had his eyes closed but still seemed to see everything. The other one seemed to be about their age. Instead of a smile, he had a scowl on his face, and had to be forced to bow. He was wearing a patched shirt of gray and similar pants that came a little below his knees. "Yamato Dano," the older monk greeted, hitting the bell a couple of times. "You are earlier than we expected. We thought it'd take you another day. We walked until almost dawn yesterday." Yamato bowed as well, putting his hands together. He looked at his students, prompting them to follow suit. "I'm here to deliver the scroll into your hands, Muraku-san." The man, called Muraku-san, stood up straight and handed his tools to the young boy next to him. "A very curious predicament that you have placed us in, Yamato Dano." He looked over the jounin, seeming to notice for the first time that he was wounded. "You are wounded, obviously," Naruto whispered to the side. Shiho elbowed him in the ribs. The monk, Muraku, raised an eyebrow at this. The boy next to him snickered. "Come, Yamato Dano, I shall take you to our nuns. They will tend to your wounds." Muraku turned to the kid. "Ju, take them to the guest house." Then turning towards Yamato, "This way please, Yamato Dano." Yamato followed after Muraku, but not before leaving a few words for his genin. "I'll be right back. I have a feeling we're going to spend the night here, so make yourselves at home." Then looking straight at Naruto, "Stay out of trouble." Naruto nodded. "That's my middle name, stay out of trouble." Uzumaki, stay out of trouble, Naruto. "Yup. Never been in trouble my whole life. I'm serious." Naruto Yamato's became very grave, trying to get across his meaning to the boy. "This is politics, Naruto. It's a C-rank mission. If you ever want to get more than C-rank missions or even more C-rank missions, you will behave." Naruto sighed. Fine, geez, it's like you don't trust me or something." Yamato threw up his hands into the air, exasperated. "Shiho, Sai, keep him out of trouble. I'll be going now. I feel a bit lightheaded." The jounin power walked to catch up with Muraku, who had already gone a fair distance away. "This way please." The boy called Ju gestured with his hands and led the way. As they walked, Naruto looked around the compound. It wasn't a single building, but a multitude of them. Each of them were of a different size. He had never seen buildings like them before. None of them exceeded more than one floor. Each of them had tiles on the roof that seemed to flow down, then mellowed out into a flat plane. On each corner there was a statue, and without fail, each one of them seemed to be sparkling clean. Naruto was amazed that the yard itself was without a speck of dust. The ground was made of stone cubes, and each one of them was identical to the other. The blonde wondered how long this temple had been here and who had spent so much painstaking time to make this compound into the thing that it was today. Ju noticed Naruto's amazed looks. Shiho was practically skipping up and down in jittery excitement. Sai seemed to be the only normal one of the bunch. "Hey," Naruto started the conversation, tapping the junior monk on the shoulder. "Ju, was it?" The monk nodded. "Yes. What are each of your names?" "I'm Naruto," the blonde replied, pointing a thumb at himself. "This is Shiho and Sai." "I see." The monk looked at Shiho up and down, said, "TCHW, what the heck was that?" said Shiho, startled. Naruto raised an eyebrow, a smile beginning to tug at his lips. "I was so excited when Muraku-sama told me that ninjas were coming." He peered at Shiho from the corner of his eye. "I was looking forward to having some eye candy around the compound, even if it was for a few hours, but instead they sent this flat glasses girl." Shiho stopped walking, her mouth wide open in shock. "He's right, you know," Sai joined in. "You are flat and you wear glasses." "I just didn't go through my growth spurt yet," Shiho finished weakly. Yeah, Ju answered back. "At least the other one's here." Naruto narrowed his eyes, trading a look with Sai. "What other one?" Naruto ventured. "Oh, I forgot to tell you." The monk turned around with a blush on his cheeks and a smile on his lips. "The Iwabikyu shinobi are already here, and one of them's a real beauty, you know. I think her name was Kuratsuchi," said a girl's voice from above them. They had been standing right next to a tree that had been planted in the garden. The tree was boxed in by a small area filled with dirt, surrounded by stone bricks, the same kind that made up the floor. The tree was a cherry blossom tree, and on one of the branches stood a girl, the height on her forehead 2 rocks, one behind the other. The girl had short black hair that cupped her face. Her eyes stood out, being a faint shade of pink without pupils, with long eyelashes at the corner of her eyes. She wore a red shirt covered by a brown jacket with fishnet tights and a skirt over her shorts. She had a pair of gloves on one hand which left her fingers bare, which she was using to hold on the tree. She leaped down from the tree, landing without a sound, impressing Naruto. "I'd appreciate it," she told Ju, never taking her eyes off of the Konoha shinobi. "If you would not reveal useless information to other shinobi like this." Ju nodded, hearts flying off of his eyes. "So you guys are from Konoha, huh?" She bent low, her hands on her hips. The one in black looks good enough, the blondie looks strong if nothing but the girl, she smirked, reaching her full height once more. You're useless, aren't you? Shiho's eyes widened and the Kuratsuchi knew she'd hit the mark right on target. Hey, Naruto cut in, glaring at the girl. Back off. Kuratsuchi looked at the blonde looking as if she just found something interesting to play with. He's hot-headed, she noted to herself. Why? Asked the Awagakure genin. It's not like I'm wrong, in fact, I'm so close to the truth that she can't even say anything in reply. If I'm wrong, she crossed her arms. Prove me wrong. Sai spared a glance at Shiho. The girl was so terrified that she was about to faint. And you, she turned to Naruto. You can't protect her forever. You might be able to play knight in the shining armor this time, but if she's a ninja, she needs to learn how to protect herself and be on the front lines. If she's weak, what point is there in being a shinobi? She might as well just be a civilian. Naruto opened his mouth to retort, then paused to think. He thought back to the incident with Team 8 and Kiba. The boy had obviously been taunting Shiho, and had seemed so casual about it that he knew it wasn't the first time that such a thing had happened. Then he thought about the battle he had with the Sound Genin. Rather than let her fight, he had knocked her out because she would be in the way. Because of her weakness, he had been forced to use the Sky Dance with Dragon Dance. If he had used only the Dragon Dance it would have been fine, but the Sky Dance had a nasty after effect. He wasn't strong enough yet to use 2 of the 3 dances in conjunction like that, even if it had been 1 move each. Also because he was worried about Shiho's safety, he had forced everything he had into ending the fight in 1 hit. As a result, he had been weakened, though it had faded now. If she had been partnered with another ninja other than him, or anyone less capable, they would probably have both died. He remembered talking with Shiho, listening to her lament about her own weakness. He nodded. This was her fight. He wouldn't butt in. Kuratsuchi smirked, seeing the gears turn in the boy's head and reaching the conclusion that she had wanted him to reach. Well, so neither of you are denying that she's weak, are you? She laughed, her high-pitched laugh filling the air. This is so like Konoha. You guys are so caught up in your own morality that if someone attacks you with the truth you have no ways to defend yourself. Completely true. Naruto commented, shocking everyone there. What? Ju muttered, his eyes wide with shock. She's right. Naruto crossed his arms, cradling his sword in his arms. That is something that Konoha's weak against the truth. That's why I'm going to change it. He looked at Sai, remembering his promise. I'll change Konoha. Kuratsuchi's eyes widened, then she grabbed her stomach, bending backwards with laughter. Her laughter filled the air once more, sounding like high-pitched bells, her rings of laughter building on top of each other. She pointed at Naruto and laughed, wheezing with laughter. She gasped. Said he'll become Hokage to see change the village. What a fool! Naruto peered at her. So what's your dream? She stopped laughing immediately. She began to blush. That's none of your concern, blondie. She growled, the blush still on her face. Shiho managed to smile a bit, seeing the confident Kunoichi from before become pressured. I see, Sai finally spoke, surprising Ju. The monk had been beginning to think that the ninja was mute. So you're a two-faced liar. You laugh at one person's dream, but when confronted with yours you can't even say it because of the absurdity of your dream. That's why you called him a fool, because secretly you are jealous that he can say his dream with such clarity and conviction, while on the other hand you're too embarrassed to say it. He smiled at the shocked Kuratsuchi. From now on your name is Two-Faced Liar. Watch it, she replied, her voice dangerously low. I'm not above ruining your pretty face, Konoha scum. Sai gave his signature fake smile at her. You're pretty on the outside but pretty ugly on the inside, aren't you? You're dead. Kuratsuchi lunged towards Sai, her hands moving towards each other to form hand seals. Naruto grabbed his sword right above the guard and thrust forward without moving a single step. The handle of the sword interrupted her chain of hand seals, being caught between her hands. Easy there, Naruto muttered, enjoying the look of surprise on Kuratsuchi's face. We don't want another repeat of the third shinobi war, do we? Kuratsuchi looked down at her hands. Her fingers had practiced these hand seals 100 times. Yet the blonde had countered it with such an easy method, aiming for the split second when she was going from one seal to another to stick his handle in between, knocking a few of her fingers away and disrupting the whole jutsu. The timing, the strength necessary, and above all, even the thought to use his sword in such a way. This guy, he's strong. Kuratsuchi narrowed her eyes, then widened them once more when seeing what had happened. Naruto was facing Kuratsuchi, his legs bent and body looking as if he was about to lunge forward. He had thrust forward by grabbing his sword by the scabbard right above its handle and interrupted Kuratsuchi's jutsu with the handle. However, he had done so that the point of the scabbard stabbed right into Sai's tricep, which was in the air because he had been reaching back to grab his tanto. With one move the blonde had stopped both ninjas, and from what Kuratsuchi could see, the one in black was skilled as well, not just strong, dangerous. Please calm down, Ju muttered into the silence. I still have to lead you to your sleeping quarters. Kuratsuchi backed up but grabbed the handle of the sword once and gave a strong tug, reminding the blonde that she could have drawn it at any time. Naruto smiled and nodded, acknowledging the move. Sai lowered his arm, rubbing the place where Naruto's scabbard had stabbed into his tricep. Your name? Kuratsuchi asked the blonde. I would like to know. Uzumaki Naruto. He spun the sword once and cradled it in his arms, putting his hands in the sleeves of the opposite hand. I'd also appreciate it if you stop provoking my teammates like that. Done. The girl answered. If you'll excuse me, I have somewhere to be. She left the clearing, jumping onto the roof of the building next to them and disappearing from view. Naruto looked at Sai, conveying a message. The genin nodded, disappearing in the same fashion that the girl had. Ju observed all this suspiciously. I hope you do realize that temple grounds is neutral grounds. He sighed, looking at them. Where did Sai go? Shiho asked Naruto, ignoring the young monk. To Yamato-sensei. Naruto replied. Because that girl's going to inform her sensei that we're here. We should do the same. Don't you think? Shiho nodded, seeing the logic in Naruto's answer. Ju sighed once more, tired of being ignored. Come on, I'll take you guys to where you need to go. Kuratsuchi entered the room, seeing her teammates and her sensei. You're back late, Kuratsuchi, her sensei told her. He was sitting on the floor, his legs crossed and his hands on his knees. His eyes were closed in a meditative trance. He had light brown hair, so spiky that it was pointing all over the place, leaving his forehead for all to see. He wore the Awagakure flak jacket and a single-sleeved shirt underneath. On his right arm he had tied his forehead protector wrapped around his arm. He had gaunt cheeks, and was rather popular among the village populace. He was a well-built man, though not overly muscular. I encountered some rather interesting people on the way. Kuratsuchi explained, sitting down. Konoha? He opened his eyes, revealing green pupils. I hope you didn't cause any trouble, Kuratsuchi. She opened her mouth to say something, then closed it, thinking better of it. I didn't. Her other teammate laughed, full of belly. He was large for his age, both vertically and horizontally. He had a big round nose, with full cheeks and dark round eyes. He opened his forehead protector into a bandana and wore it as such, a few strands of hair that leaked out from the back. He was wearing the same outfit as Kuratsuchi, minus the skirt with a yellow scarf around his neck. She's lying. He laughed. I can tell she's lying through her teeth. Shut up, Akatsuchi. Kuratsuchi hissed. Are you lying, Kuratsuchi? Gari inquired, truly curious. Kuratsuchi blushed and scratched the back of her head. Hey, yeah, I started a fight. Tried to, said another voice as the owner entered the room. I saw the whole thing. This blonde kid with a sword and 6 dark stripes on his face stopped her and his teammate in one move. She got schooled. Mamaru, Kuratsuchi snarled as she faced the newcomer. You were spying on me? I just happened to pass by. The boy shrugged. He was wearing bandages all over his body, even his feet and up to his neck. He had spiky black hair that were pointed towards the back. He had slits for eyes, barely showing pupils. He had a red shirt over his torso and black pants, though the bandages covered even underneath those clothing. He wore the Awagakure forehead protector over his forehead. On his back there was a single sword held diagonally, its handle wrapped in bandages as well. Gari gave a very level look at Kuratsuchi, who looked away. That kind of behavior is certainly unbecoming of the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage, Gari muttered. And you know what's expected of you. She got goaded by the kid who was good-looking, Mamaru tattled. I think he hurt her feelings cause she wanted him to be nice to her. Shut up, Mamaru. Akatsuchi just laughed, enjoying the show. Gari sighed and smiled at his students as they began to argue. Kuratsuchi was the granddaughter of their Tsuchikage, the Sandame. She was a talented shinobi in her own rights, and though she had not received the same aptitude for Jintan, dust release, as her grandfather had, she had enough talent of her own to be considered as a genius. Then again, his team was filled with geniuses, the reason why he, the commander of the Explosion Corps, had been chosen to be their teacher. Akatsuchi, though he didn't come from a renowned family like the other two, came from a regular clan. Yet he was already the clan's most promising aspect for their return to their former glory. Akatsuchi was currently the only one in the clan who had been born with enough talent and chakra to use their signature jutsu with deadly effectiveness. The clan was known for using golems to fight, but Akatsuchi's golems were on a whole entire level. While most of the clans used golems as substitutes or distractions, Akatsuchi's golems could actually fight in his place. The boy was a prodigy in his own rights as well. Then there was Mamaru. Mamaru was the spitting image of the second Tsuchikage, Mu. He descended directly from his family line and had received the aptitude for Jintan, making him the sole heir of the current Inoki. Inoki had put him under Gari's tutelage for him to gain more experience. When Mamaru became a Chunin, he would undergo serious training using the Jintan under the Tsuchikage. Jintan was a Kekai Toda, an advanced bloodline, a bloodline that transcended other bloodlines. It was one of the strongest weapons that Awagakure no Sato possessed, and when Mamaru had been found to show an aptitude for it, he was praised as the savior of the village. Because Inoki was of age, the people had begun to fear that even if another Jintan user had been born, there would be no one to teach him. Luckily, Mamaru, born from the same clan as Mu, came along to the village's pleasant surprise. Gari looked at the door, wondering what kind of individuals Konoha no Sato had sent. He wondered if their counterparts were as talented as the 3 students he had. What am I? Naruto complained. A rabbit? He scowled and held up his dish filled with green vegetables. You are in a monastery, Naruto, Shiho chided. They're vegetarians. I'm a vegetarian too, argued the blonde. I eat vegetarians. Like cows, pigs, chickens. He began to count off the animals on his hand. Sai was eating like a madman, shoveling everything he could into his mouth. Root made us eat tree roots for a month. Once we even had to eat our own crap. This is nothing. Ju opened the sliding door and peeked in. Hey, are you guys done yet? Muraku-sama wants you guys at the main sanctuary. Naruto flashed a smile at the young monk. I'm not really hungry. Ju spied the vegetables. I'm not a fan of vegetarians, are you? I love vegetarians. Naruto quipped. As long as I'm eating them, Ju sighed. Come to the main sanctuary when you guys are ready. I delivered my message. With those as his last words, the monk closed the door, leaving the three to their meal. What did Yamato-sensei say? Naruto asked Sai. Shiho stopped picking around her plate to listen as well, curious as to what her teammate had to say. He didn't say much. Sai cleaned his mouth with a napkin. Just told us to stay out of trouble. Trouble has a way of finding us. Sighed Naruto, remembering the girl from IWA. Hey, are we safe here? What if those Oto shinobi attack us again? No chance of that. Shiho pushed her glasses with her index finger. Oh, thought Naruto. She's going into her nerd mode. We are currently in neutral grounds. All monasteries such as this one has been declared to be neutral ground by all shinobi villages after the Second Shinobi War. It was a favorite tactic of a lot of ninja that when they were being chased to enter a temple, once entered within a temple they were granted not only protection, but medical attention as well. It couldn't be easily penetrated as well because the monks are not just monks but they have their own fighting styles similar to shinobi and samurais. If Oto ninja decided to break the truce and attack us, Shiho continued, not only are they declaring war on Konoha no Sato and the temple, they are breaking the one rule that all shinobi has agreed to follow, the neutrality of the temples. Therefore not only will Otogeku no Sato be ostracized from the rest of the shinobi world, it's a possibility that the 5 villages might work in conjunction to destroy them. It's a very special rule that everyone follows. Naruto had listened to only half of Shiho's explanation. These monks know how to fight? Oh yes. Shiho nodded. They're not ninjas per se but they're not samurais either. They have a special form of fighting that is passed down only to themselves. It has a lot to do with taijutsu and ninjutsu, much like the samurai. You could say genjutsu is somewhat a shinobi art, but these monks are said to utilize the elements in a way that they're almost one with them, mused Naruto. So that Ju guy he probably knows how to fight too. Don't even think about it, Naruto. Shiho's tone was grave. This is serious, we could get in serious trouble for attacking a monk. He held up his hands in surrender. Hey fine. He stood up, picking up his sword and cradling it in his arms again. Let's go. They wanted us in the main temple. The main temple was huge, the ceilings reaching as far as the sky itself. The double doors were at least 30 feet tall, though it opened with a simple touch. Within there was path going straight from the door to a huge statue of a huge Buddha statue. Naruto shivered when he saw the statue. Something about it made his stomach fill with butterflies. But he ignored it, absorbing the surroundings. The room stretched so far to the side that light faded before the walls could be seen. The light were from the path from the door to the huge Buddha statue. It was lined with thin iron lamps and in between them statues of lions that were sitting down with one paw raised. They all had their jaws open and glared in a way that made Naruto think that they were permanently annoyed. Dismissing the decorations, Naruto looked at the people waiting for them. The one called Muraku sat directly in front of the statue. To his left sat Yamato and to his opposite sat 4 people, the genin from Iwagakure among them. Judging from the forehead protectors they were all from Iwagakure no Sato. The one with spiky hair was no doubt their jounin teacher. The one sitting right next to him was covered in bandages up to his neck. Then there was the girl, then a huge genin that resembled a rock more than anything else. Following suit, Team 13 sat down on the opposite side, Naruto, Shiho, then Sai. I'm glad you are all here. Muraku gestured at everyone with one arm. There's a reason I called all of you out here today. Yamato-dano, instead of using me as the medium, why don't you hand the scroll to Gari-dano yourself? Yamato's face faltered. What? You called us here just for that? Gari groaned and pinched the bridge of his nose. This old man? Yes. Muraku smiled once more. Wouldn't this be a great sign of being friendly with one another? You could directly hand the scroll to Gari-dano. Yamato cleared his throat and got up, the scroll in his hand. Well then, I'll be giving you the scroll. Gari stood up as well. Yes. I guess I'll be receiving the scroll. Yamato handed the scroll over to the man called Gari, both of them smiling at each other. What with this awkwardness, Naruto sighed and allowed the sword to rest on his cheek. Yamato and Gari shook hands and started to walk back to their places. Now, surely you don't think that's the end? Muraku's smile didn't leave his face. Damn it, this old man, Gari glared, but Muraku pretended not to notice. How about a friendly sparring match between your teams? Muraku clapped his hands together, excited at the prospect. We can have one right now. After all, it's still only a bit after lunch. I think that's the true sign of friendship, when you can have a friendly sparring match without any hard feelings involved. He looked both ways at each of the teams. Don't you think so? Yamato smiled and put up his hands. No, I don't think my students. Now don't be like that. Muraku looked at Gari. What do you think? Gari's eyes turned flat. Actually, he looked at his students who nodded. I'd like to see that. Yamato's smile faded off of his face. Is that how it is? Fine, I accept. The Konoha Jounin answered, not even bothering to look at his students. Shall we go outside and start? Let's have these matches be one-on-one, shall we? Muraka said while smiling. Ju was sweeping the yard but paused to watch. Please choose the order of your battles. Yamato motioned for his students to hurtle around him. Sai, you will go first. Then Shiho, then Naruto. Sai nodded. Naruto peered at Shiho but did not bother to say anything. But sensei, Naruto whispered. Is it okay for us to fight like this? I thought it was supposed to be an alliance. Why I feel like we got sucked up into something petty, Yamato sighed. Muraku-san is known for liking shinobi fights. He's always invited to the Chunin exams in both Konoha and IWA. I'm starting to think he arranged this, but as long as this is going on, our pride as Konoha shinobi is riding on this. His face turned serious. Don't let me down. Naruto peeked over at the other team, and they were doing the same. Sai, Naruto, go and prepare for your battle. I'm going to talk to Shiho for a bit. Naruto walked away with Sai in tow, his sword cradled in his arms. Hey Sai, don't you think this developed into a situation way too fast? Sai nodded, looking at the girl who seemed to be glaring right at him. It looks as if my opponent has already been chosen. He put on his smile. That two-faced liar, it seems. He said it loud enough for the IWA shinobi to hear. Hearing this, Mamaru smirked and Akatsuchi burst into laughter. Gari put on a straight face and simply nodded at Kuratsuchi. The genin bounded forward, a few feet away from Sai. Don't lose. Naruto muttered with a bored expression, and the root member nodded before walking up to Kuratsuchi. Muraka cleared his throat. If both sides are ready, begin. Kuratsuchi threw herself at Sai, taking out a kunai. Sai spun on his feet and drew his tanto, meeting her charge with a loud clang of metal on metal. Your friend won't save you this time, pretty boy, she said with a smirk, her face right in front of Sai's. It seems you are mistaken. Sai's smile melted off of his face. It wasn't me he was saving you. Sai held the tanto with only one hand, and with the other he had taken out a paintbrush. Kuratsuchi looked at the hand, but it was too late. The paintbrush practically flew across his abdomen, drawing a series of lions. Kuratsuchi leaped away instantly, her hands flying into preparation for a ninjutsu. Sai formed his own hand seals, muttering, Ninpo, Choji Giga. Ninja art, super beast imitation drawing. The lions leaped off of his stomach, coming to life and leaping across the space between them. Kuratsuchi put a hand to her mouth, her cheeks swelling up. Sway Tun Mizurappa. Water release, water trumpet technique. A torrent of water jetted out of her mouth, hitting the ink lions and turning them back into harmless ink once more. She landed on the ground and ran towards Sai once more, throwing a few kunai at him. His jutsu is range-based. I'll take him on with taijutsu. Kuratsuchi took out a kunai, holding it in a reverse grip. She attempted to cut Sai across the chest, only for him to block using his tanto, which he was also holding in a reverse grip. He took his paintbrush and tried to draw again, but felt Kuratsuchi grab his wrist. I already have your techniques figured out, she whispered. It won't work again. Sai didn't reply. Then he felt the cold of steel touch the back of his neck. Another Kuratsuchi was right behind him, holding the kunai that was aimed at his neck. Naruto nodded. She had used her water technique, and when it collided with Sai's technique, it had obscured his view for just a second, long enough to form an earth clone. The earth clone, to Naruto's surprise, sunk into the ground and appeared only when Kuratsuchi had disabled Sai. He was impressed with the girl's quick thinking, but Sai was better. Sai exploded into ink, covering both the clone and the real Kuratsuchi. Kuratsuchi covered her head, trying to keep the ink from entering her eyes in order to form some semblance of vision. Sai's torso exploded out of the ground, his hands clutched in a single hand seal. Ninpo, Sumi Nagashi. Ninja arts, ink flush. The ink suddenly hard, acting like ropes and coiling around both Kuratsuchi and her clone. Unable to handle the sudden pressure, her clone turned back into earth, melting into mud. Kuratsuchi fell over to the side, the ropes of ink binding around her legs, torso and arms and keeping her unable to keep even her balance. She struggled against the bonds to no avail. Sai hopped out of the little hole in the ground. I believe victory is mine. He undid the jutsu, allowing the IWA genin to go free. She lay there on the ground, her eyes wide with shock. And no way, she whispered. I just lost to a Konoha genin. No way this is possible, and no way. You cheated. Someone helped you. No way. She ran over to Sai and grabbed him by the front of his shirt. I just defeated you using my skills. Not only are you a two-faced liar, Sai said with a straight and emotionless face, but you're just a weakling too, aren't you? Are all Iwagakure ninja like this? Kuratsuchi raised a fist. Kuratsuchi! Gari snapped, his voice cracking like a whip. That's enough, come back here. Naruto looked at the Iwagakure ninja. Before they had an air of amusement and confidence. Now, all of them looked seriously pissed off. Even the big one that had been laughing constantly had ceased to smile, glaring at Naruto with a look of pure hatred. The one called Mamaru actually grabbed the hilt of his sword. Kuratsuchi gave one last look at Sai before walking back to where her sensei was. Gari looked the most pissed off out of all of them. He was glaring at Sai as if he wanted to face off against the genin himself. Naruto sighed and looked back as Yamato finished talking to Shiho. Shiho nodded and seemed to notice the atmosphere of the Awagakure ninja for the first time. She looked at Naruto as if asking for an explanation. Naruto flapped his hand in the shape of a mouth and pointed at Sai. Shiho shot a desperate glance at Sai, who smiled at her. Come on, Shiho, just do what I say. Yamato patted her on the shoulder. You'll be fine. Shiho gulped, walking in front of her opponent. The one in bandages walked up to meet her. Oh shit, Naruto cursed inwardly. This is over. He glanced at Yamato, who had paled. He knows it too, I guess. Shiho was shaking with fear. Mamara sighed. I wanted the blonde one, but I guess not. He sent a look in Naruto's direction. Perhaps in the future, if we're fated to meet. Begin! Muraka yelled out. Shiho immediately threw a barrage of shuriken as soon as Muraka had yelled. Mamara took out a kunai of his own and blocked them in an almost bored manner. I won't even need to use a jutsu against her. Shiho, after throwing the shuriken, threw another barrage of kunai. Mamara blocked those as well in the same manner. Looks like she's up to something. Shiho touched the ground, sending a pulse of chakra. Mamaro! Kuratsuchi warned. The shuriken and kunai all puffed into smoke, turning back into slips of paper that were burning with fire. Mamara glared at Kuratsuchi, his eyes bloodshot. Alright, Kuratsuchi gulped and looked away. There's no way he didn't notice that. Mamara's arms moved in a blur, throwing a shuriken in every direction. Shiho's eyes widened. Each of the shuriken that he had thrown had hit the part of the seal that caused the explosion. By breaking the seal at that exact spot, he had prevented the seals from exploding. The fact that he threw the shuriken with such precision and had remained calm in that ordeal meant that he had known that she was throwing explosive tags. Yamato narrowed his eyes. These are not normal genin. Shiho, he began, but he was too late. The bandaged genin rushed into motion and in the blink of an eye, struck Shiho in the right shoulder, stomach and chin, sending her flying backwards unconscious. He didn't even say anything, turning around and walking towards his team once more. What a waste of time. He whispered. Gari smirked. Naruto sighed, keeping his bored expression on his face. He looked at Shiho. At least she tried her best. Nodding and steeling himself, he walked into place, seeing his opponent, the big guy named Akatsuchi, already waiting for him. I'm not going to go easy on you, the giant said to the blonde. You can thank your friend for that. I'm not going to go easy on you, Naruto said, glaring at his opponent. You can thank your friend for that. Akatsuchi narrowed his eyes. Hey, Naruto leaned back on the balls of his feet. The food that they serve here, there's no way you're eating it. You have a secret stash of your own food, don't you? There's no way you can maintain that size with the rabbit food that they serve here. How'd he know? Akatsuchi gulped. If I beat you, Naruto took his hands out of their sleeves, holding the sword a little above the handle by the scabbard. Give it to me. Enough talking. Muraka clapped his hands. Begin. Naruto waited for Akatsuchi to make the first move. This guy's strong. Kuratsuchi told me not to underestimate him, so I'm going with my strongest technique. Akatsuchi formed a hand seal, muttering, Doton, Gorima no Jutsu, Earth Release, Golem Technique. Akatsuchi opened his mouth and two hands crabbed onto the corners of his mouth, a new being opening his mouth and emerging. Naruto made a disgusted expression. Never mind, you can keep your food, please don't throw up. A humanoid creature made out of earth appeared in front of Naruto. Akatsuchi wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, wiping some drool away. It had horns on the side of its heads and had large hands, looking at Naruto menacingly. Isn't it going to say it's clobbering time? Naruto quipped with a smile. Getting no reaction from anyone, Naruto shrugged. He rushed towards the golem, which raised its arm to slam Naruto to the ground. Naruto raised his sword, meeting the descending fist with the handle of his sword. His eyes widened. Sora no Mai Anjetsu. Dance of Sky, Crescent Moon, Naruto whispered. He lowered his body to the ground for a split second, revealing about 2 inches of the blade before snapping it shut once more. This entire motion was so fast that the Jounins were the only who saw exactly what it was that Naruto had done. The other genin had barely seen a blur. The golem exploded into dust, clouding the battle for a few seconds. Akatsuchi jumped into the air out of the dust, and jumped into the dust cloud once more, fist first towards where Naruto had been approximately. They heard a loud crash and a few pieces of gravel. The dust cleared, showing them what had happened. The golem still stood, though there was a large gash on its chest. Yet the jutsu had not dissipated from the simple cut. Sometime during the brawl it had raised both arms as a hammer fist and attempted to slam it down on Naruto. On top of the fist was Akatsuchi, who had punched on top of the hammer fist to increase its strength. Naruto stood beneath the hammer fist, straining and sweating. He still had his sword in its scabbard, which was being used to hold the fist at bay by intercepting the wrist. He held the handle of the sword and his other hand was supporting the sword by pushing the middle of the scabbard with the palm. Instead of taking the fist head-on, Gari narrowed his eyes and pressed with the blonde swordsman. He hit the wrist, which carries less weight. Even though he's not as strong as Akatsuchi, he's overcoming the difference by skill. Even besides that, the sword's blade never touched the golem. All he did was draw it about 2 inches and snap it back really fast. Just what was that technique? You're really heavy, Naruto muttered. You need to go on a diet. He drew the sword out of the scabbard about 2 inches before snapping it back shut. Akatsuchi leaped away using only one arm, a display of casual strength. But the golem wasn't so lucky. The golem screeched as both of its fists fell to the ground, sliced cleanly from the wrist. Naruto didn't stop his rush. As soon as the fist fell, he dodged the falling debris and ran right in front of the golem. Naruto turned his body sideways and pushed his palm on to the end of the handle, stabbing the golem in the stomach with the point of the sword. Though the scabbard's edge wasn't sharp at all, it managed to pierce through the golem's rocky exterior, sending cracks throughout the body. Naruto gave a yell and sent a pulse of chakra from his palm at the handle of the sword, deepening the cracks in the golem. With another screech, the golem crumbled, and from the back Akatsuchi's fist came towards Naruto's face. Naruto grabbed the sword by the handle and hit the bottom side of the scabbard with his other palm, holding it upright once more. The point of the sword hit Akatsuchi's wrist, sending the fist sailing harmlessly upwards. Naruto stepped in, continuing the arc of his sword, and stabbed Akatsuchi's stomach with his handle, making the genin double over in pain. I'm not finished. Naruto turned his foot outwards, then bent it backwards, kicking Akatsuchi's heel with his own while stabbing his chest with the handle of his sword. Akatsuchi began to fall backwards. When Akatsuchi opened his eyes, Naruto was holding the sword to his neck sideways. If this was a battle, Naruto whispered, I'd have decapitated you by now. Akatsuchi just stared at Naruto's face, unable to believe that he had just lost. Naruto got up smiling and walked back over to his team. You can keep your snacks. The room was dark yet huge. There was a single light source, a worn-out light bulb hung on the ceiling. There was a single bed with a man wrapped in bandages in it. He had long black hair hung down to his waist with eyes that sent a sliver of fear into Kajika's heart. Kajika was standing across from the man who sat on his bed, being treated by a silver-haired young ninja. The young ninja had glasses and an outfit consisting of dark blue clothes that he had often seen on Konoha shinobi, but he didn't ask. Orochimaru was from Konoha after all. Well? Orochimaru's voice seemed to slither in the air like a snake's. Kajika hated that voice. He got away. He killed 3 shinobi of yours. He grimaced, expecting to hear some type of reprimand, or perhaps death. That's no problem, they can be replaced. Orochimaru said with a smirk. I heard that the 2 of the Sound 4 who accompanied you, Jirobo and Kidamaru, were injured. Which one was it? I didn't know Konoha had such a talented genin that I did not know about. It was a blonde boy with a sword. He frowned, trying to remember. I don't know his name. Just how he looks. A blonde with a sword, you say? The medic Nin muttered. He leaned down and whispered into Orochimaru's ear. Orochimaru's eyes widened and then, is that so? Orochimaru seemed to be shivering. My, I was wondering where he had gone to. What an interesting boy, keep an eye on him, Kabuto. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto replied. As for you, Kajika, Orochimaru turned his attention back to him. Kajika felt as if he was the rat to Orochimaru's snake. I have special plans for you, Kajika gulped, narrowing his eyes. Whatever this snake had in store for him, he promised himself that he wouldn't just be treated like some street scum that he found on the bottom of his shoe. He'd bide his time and wait for now. Night had arrived, the moon making its daily visit on the sky above. The temple was quiet, cold winds blowing in the night, a few stray leaves being blown here and there from the few trees that existed in the temple. As the night got deeper and deeper, the brightly lit doors that shone with light from the inside began to blink out one by one, leaving only darkness in its wake. Naruto sat on the roof, looking at his master's sword, Hanakage. Flower Shadow. He was deep in thought, looking at his reflection in the blade. The blonde seemed a little sad, his head tilted towards the side, staring at the sword with frustration in his eyes. He grimaced as he moved his arms, feeling an intense sensation akin to a burn travel from his hands to his shoulders. He gritted his teeth as to not make any noise. As I thought, the sword is rejecting me. He thought sadly. I thought I might be able to use my master's sword, but it's rejecting me, because the one who defeated my master wasn't me, it was that man. An image of a shadow-covered man flashed in his head, with lavender eyes staring at him as if he was not even worth killing. At this rate, if I keep using the sword, I won't be able to use the rest of the dances, much less be able to fight all out. I'm going to need my own sword, but master's sword, Flower Shadow, why won't you accept me? Naruto winced at the burning sensation in his arm, because the sword kept on rejecting him and his chakra. Whenever Naruto forced his chakra into it, there was a lot of feedback afterwards. Not only did he have to expend more chakra than necessary, but the technique came out not even a tenth of what it was supposed to be. Naruto knew that as they fought stronger opponents, this could not be allowed. Naruto grabbed the sword by the scabbard a little above the guard and slid it upwards, sending the handle flying into the air behind him until it met resistance. Who the hell are you? Naruto whispered. And what do you want with me? Quite unique, your method of defense, I mean, said a voice behind him. Naruto looked at the black scabbard, seeing his assailant's reflection. It was the boy who was covered in bandages from the neck down. His right arm had been reaching back to draw the sword on his back, but Naruto's handle had stabbed into his elbow, in the same manner that he had stopped Sai. I'm Mamaru. Your method of introduction is quite unique too, Naruto quipped, not taking the pressure off of his sword. I'll ask you again, what do you want with me? Mamaru narrowed his eyes, though Naruto could not see it. I've never seen Akatsuchi lose in such a one-sided manner before. You only used a fraction of your sword, Akatsuchi held back too, but I have a feeling you would have won regardless. Mamoru tightened the pressure on his arm and felt the sword's handle dig deeper into his arm. I want to see exactly how strong you are, Uzumaki Naruto. Mamoru leaped away as Naruto's handle disappeared from his arm and was thrust into the air where his head had been. Mamoru skidded along the ground, his legs to either side of him, and one hand on the ground. The other hand was still holding onto the handle of his own sword. Naruto turned around, skidding on the ground in the same position as Mamoru except that he held his sword by the scabbard sideways in front of him. I'm really not in the mood, Naruto tilted his head in a wondering gesture. But if you want to be my punching bag, I'll gladly take out my stress on you. Mamoru put a single hand seal. I'll show you the technique that made Iwagakure no Sato famous in the war Maisegakure no Jutsu. Hiding with camouflage technique. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Mamoru began to disappear from view from head to toe, completely blending with his surroundings. After realizing what had happened, the blonde narrowed his eyes, grabbed the handle of his sword, drawing it. No one's looking, perhaps it's time for me to be serious for once. He leaped off of the roof and landed on the stone floor of the yard drawing his sword. Come on you mummy, Naruto snarled. Show yourself. Mamoru slashed downwards with his sword right behind Naruto. To his shock, the blonde spun and slashed with his sword, forcing Mamoru to jump up into the air. Naruto stabbed his sword into the ground. Paper-thin blades of chakra exploded out of the ground in an outward formation, surrounding the blonde, pointing outwards. It looked as if Naruto was in the middle of a plate made of paper-thin spikes. Some of the spikes behind him were dripping with blood. Mummies bleed after all, Naruto whispered, peering at the blades that were dripping with blood. Mamoru backpedaled as fast as he could. His sword returned to its strap on his back. He began to form hand seals. He's dangerous, that move could have killed me. He's serious about it. Naruto appeared right in front of him, stabbing the ground in front of Mamoru. A single blade of chakra shot out of the ground, skewering both of Mamoru's hands, which were in the middle of forming a hand seal. Mamoru stifled a scream and to his credit attempted to kick Naruto with one leg. Naruto released his sword, leaving it embedded in the ground, ensuring that the chakra blade kept Mamoru's hands pinned in place. Naruto ducked underneath the kick, then grabbed his sword again, sliding it a couple of inches. As the blade moved, the chakra blade moved as well, cutting a straight line in Mamoru's hands towards his wrist. Mamoru leaped backwards, taking the chakra blade out of his hand. Naruto gripped his sword and drew it out of the ground, rushing towards where Mamoru was once more. Mamoru switched directions. Naruto switched directions as well, following him right away, a smirk on his lips. Mamoru's eyes widened with shock. How the hell is he following me? Hey, Naruto whispered, his face suddenly right in front of Mamoru's. You're bleeding all over the place. Purju's going to have to clean all this up tomorrow. Shocked, Mamoru fell backwards, dispelling the jutsu. Naruto placed his sword on the side of Mamoru's neck. What's wrong? Why don't you continue? Naruto smirked. Why? So you have an excuse for using that jutsu? Naruto bent a little low, yet on his feet. He had gripped his hands in both hands and had placed it next to Mamoru's neck. His feet were pointed sideways, and all Naruto needed to do was continue twisting his hips to face forward in order to finish off this battle. But he didn't, interested in the jutsu that Mamoru had in his hands. Mamoru was on his back and his hands were gathered together, as if he was warming them in front of a fire. But in between his outstretched hands was a small transparent cube with a bright sphere in the middle. Naruto didn't know how much damage the jutsu would do, but it contained an insane amount of chakra from what he could tell. He became interested in it. Then shall we continue on 3? Mamoru's eyes widened. What? On 3, Naruto said, his voice beginning to quiver. But it wasn't a quiver of fear, Mamoru could tell, it was a quiver of excitement. You fire your little jutsu, and I'll try to cut off your head. This guy was having fun. We can't. Mamoru found his voice shaking as well, but it wasn't like Naruto's. His was full of fear. Naruto frowned. We'd kill each other, and cause an international uproar. Our villages might go into war once more. Mamoru continued. I am the sole heir of the Jintan in my village right now. There's no way that they just stand still and let Konoha. Shut up. Naruto snarled. You're taking the fun out of it. We could die from this. Mamoru raised his voice. You can't just. Naruto lowered his face to meet Mamoru's own. I don't care. Then he cocked his head to the side. Besides, I thought shinobi were supposed to be ready to die at any moment's notice. Mamoru gasped. This guy's mad. I challenged this monster. Ready? Naruto continued, smiling once more. On 3, 1, 2, th. Stop. Naruto sighed, taking the blade out of the ground and sheathing it once more. Mamoru's technique disappeared into the air and the genin seemed to almost melt on the ground, the tension leaving his body. I wasn't going to kill him. Naruto sighed. He challenged me first. I just wanted to see what a Iwagakure ninja were made of. He looked back at Mamoru. Naruto, that was the Jintan. If you had been hit with it you would have died for sure. Yamato and Gari stood next to each other. Gari walked over to Mamoru, helping his pupil to his feet, who was shaking with fear, shooting frightened glances at the blonde. Yamato walked over to Naruto and flicked him on the forehead. Apologize. Yamato placed both hands on his hips, using his ghoul face. Naruto gulped and hung his head. Sorry, I mean you're the one who challenged me first though. Don't worry about it, little one. Gari said with resignation in his voice. I think this was a good experience for Mamoru. This was his first real life and death experience. He couldn't even tell that the boy was joking. It seems Mamoru still has a while to go. Gary looked at Mamoru, who had regained his composure. Mamoru, you should apologize too. The bandaged boy cleared his throat. It was my fault. He shook his head. If I held back any more, this boy I can hold back against him. Even if I go full out, I wonder if I can defeat him. Naruto sighed and put his hands in the opposite arm's sleeves again, cradling the sword in his arms. If you know, that's fine then. A predatory gleam appeared in his eyes again. I look forward to a rematch sometime in the future. Mamoru nodded, though it was rather stiff. So do I. With those words, Gary and Mamoru walked away, leaving the ground of Yamato yelling his head off at Naruto in the background. So how was he? Gary asked in a bare whisper. Strong. Mamoru shivered. And dangerous. I've never fought anyone like him. He knew I was holding back, so he held back too. Gary nodded. Do you want to meet him again? Mamoru nodded. The Chunin exams, I was going to wait one more year, but I was wondering if I'll allow it. Gary said with a smile. After all, it's very rare of you to ask anything of me. Naruto winced, grabbing his arm while Yamato had been yelling. Yamato stopped and knelt down, grabbing Naruto's arm, much to the blonde's shock. He hissed at Yamato as the Jounin rolled up Naruto's sleeve on right arm. Yamato gave a gasp. Naruto's whole arm was covered in burn-like marks, and there seemed to be steam rising from his skin in the cool night air. Yamato rolled up his other sleeve as well and found it to be the same. It wasn't him. Naruto said with a pout. It's the sword. He turned his head as if ashamed. It's rejecting my chakra. Yamato looked at Naruto, seeing the blonde vulnerable for the first time. I don't know what to do without a sword. He clenched his fist. This is all I have left of Takizo. Yamato picked up Naruto, cradling him. Come on, Naruto, I'll take you to the room. We can talk about it there. So that new team, Chuji muttered while eating a bag of chips. Has someone we know from it? Yes. Kiba said with frustration at the chubby genin. Chuji was a chunky ninja with spiky brown hair parted to either side. His forehead protector was shaped like an underwear that a certain green beast of Konoha would wear, which kept his hair to either side. He wore a white scarf and dark green short-sleeved shirt underneath it. He had swirls on his cheeks, and as he chewed, the swirls seemed to be moving up and down. Why do we care again? Shikamaru muttered from his place. He was lying on top of a rock watching the clouds float by in the sky. He had a head shaped like a pineapple, his black hair tied into a short ponytail at the top. He was wearing a mesh net shirt and a beige jacket over it. Because, Kiba snarled. It's that guy from back in the academy. His name was Naruto. Shino finished for his teammate. Chuji showed interest at this. You mean, that guy who always skipped class and pissed off Irika-sensei? Who always played prank on the villagers and was known as basically the outcast of our year? Ino cocked her head to the side. She was wearing a purple outfit with mesh underneath it. She had her long blonde hair tied into a ponytail. She was sitting on the rock where Shikamaru was lying on with her legs dangling. Chuji was leaning on the rocks eating his chips. Oh. Sakura muttered. She was sitting on the other rock along with Sasuke and their teammate, a boy called Kawasu Kurama. He had light brown hair that were swept to either side but spiky at the ends. He had the Konoha forehead protector on his head and wore a kimono-like outfit of black. He was sitting on the rock next to Sakura with a sleepy expression and even gave a yawn. I remember him. Sakura finished. Sasuke-kun, what about you? This is a waste of time. Sasuke said under his breath. So what do you want us to do about it? Shikamaru sat up and Chuji swallowed his chips. This isn't some big problem, Kiba. Someone just came back from training. I was just letting you know. Kiba growled and sulked. He peered from the corner of his eyes and saw Hinata blushing. Now for the real reason why we're here. Ino got to the point. It looks like Asuma-sensei and Kakashi-sensei wanted to have a sparring session between our teams, but they're not here yet. She looked at Sasuke and smiled at him. Why don't we just go on a date then? There's no way he'd ever go on a date with you, Ino. Naruto collapsed to the ground, sweat beading his entire body. He tried to move even a finger but found that he couldn't. His arms were so red and literally smoking even though the day itself was hot. He screamed as he felt another wave of pain travel up his arm from his hand. There were red welts beginning to form on his arm from the abused chakra lines. That's what happens, Yamato muttered, equally tired. He had his hands on his knees to support himself. When a chakra you send into your sword is sent right back up, shooting up your arm. It's similar to if a blood flow is suddenly reversed. Naruto screamed into the air, a primal sort of scream filled with nothing but rage. He attempted to move his arm to grab his sensei's sword that lay a few feet away from him. Naruto, Yamato muttered when Naruto paused to breathe. You promised. The blonde in the middle of taking a breath froze, the world seeming to stop with him. They had returned to Konoha only a few days ago. Since then Yamato had begun to train them daily in grueling one-on-one sessions. They rotated each day, Sai, Naruto, then Shiho. The ones who were being trained one-on-one always entered the forest. In Naruto's opinion, Shiho had it the worst, coming out of the forest looking as if something had literally taken her in its jaws and chewed her. Sai was only a little better, coming out with minor wounds but still covered with sweat from top to bottom. Then came Naruto's turn. The first words Yamato had said to Naruto when they had reached the training area left the blonde speechless. Give me that sword, Naruto. What? Naruto thought that his teacher was kidding, and he just smiled back. Oh, are we going to train in something else today? Are you going to teach me what you taught Sai and Shiho? No, Naruto. Yamato held out a hand. Give me the sword. That sword is too dangerous for you. I'm going to train you as a shinobi, but until we find a new way for you to use your kenjutsu, sword technique, without hurting yourself, you won't be touching that sword. Now give it to me. Yamato narrowed his eyes. Now, Naruto's eyes, which were wide with shock, turned into something ugly. Come here and fucking take it, Woodman. This is all I have left of my father. You think I'm going to lie down and let you fucking take it without a fight? Then if I beat you, Yamato's face was shrouded in shadow. You'll give it to me? Naruto snarled. If you can, that is the word genin is but just a word. He drew his sword. I'll show you the dances of dragon, sky and shadow. I've been holding back until now, you'll be sorry for angering me. You're strong, Naruto. Yamato looked up, his eyes deadly. But not nearly as you think you are. Then they battled. Naruto collapsed to the ground, unable to take the pain from the chakra backlash. Yamato gasped for breath, looking around the clearing. Every single tree within a 30-yard radius from Naruto had been cleanly sliced, making a ring around them. It wasn't just trees, everything that had been above 4 feet in height had been cut down as well. So this is your true power, Naruto, Yamato said as he regained his composure and began to walk over to the sword next to Naruto. He avoided the gigantic holes in the ground. The holes were about 7 or 8 feet in diameter and about 15 feet deep. They were perfectly circular despite being engraved into the ground. There were large slashes on the ground as well, perfectly straight. All these had been done by Naruto. Damn it, Naruto began to cry. He wanted to punch something, but he couldn't even move his arm due to the pain. Why please, that's all I have left of my dad. You can get a new sword. Yamato said coldly. Please, sensei, please. Naruto. Yamato snapped. Look at your arm. Naruto paused, looking at his arm as if seeing it for the first time. Yamato gestured around them. You're strong, way stronger than you have any right to be as a genin. But at too high a price. You've cut down every single tree in a 30-yard radius with one swipe of your sword. You've engraved the ground full of more holes and slashes than I've ever seen in one single battle. Each of those things done by a single swipe of your sword. But do you know how many times you paused because you couldn't take the pain, Naruto? Yes, your destructive power is great, but no. Not at this price. Steel entered Yamato's voice. I won't let my student die. If you can get another sword that won't hurt you as much, I'll allow you to use it. But not this sword until you are strong enough to use it without backlash. Yamato picked up the sword and left the blonde behind. He heard the blonde beginning to wail. When he felt as if he was far enough away from Naruto, Yamato allowed himself to fall on a tree. Then he spat up blood. Terrifying power, he whispered. My legs are still shaking. He didn't even use the Kyuubi's chakra at all. I could easily have lost a limb, or two back there, or even my life. He looked at the sword in his hand. Naruto, I promise I'll return this to you. But for now it's hurting you too much. I'll give it to you as soon as you can handle it. Naruto woke up breathing heavily. Damn it, it's been a month, just how many times am I going to have that dream? He grimaced and clutched his heart, hissing as he felt a sharp pain travel up his arm. Though it wasn't so bad anymore, his arms were still heavily bandaged from the burns he had received. He looked at his arms and shook his head, trying to rid himself of the hated memory. He thought of Yamato taking his sword and hated himself for it. He didn't hate Yamato at all. The man was looking out for Naruto, doing it for his own safety. However, he did hate something. That something was his own weakness, his own inability to control the sword. He knew it was something that couldn't be helped. The sword didn't recognize him because he wasn't the one that defeated his master. He also knew because his chakra was radically different from his master's, hence the strong side effects. His master's chakra had been calm and warm, something like a pool of water. But on the other hand, Naruto's chakra was violent, erratic and cold. It was more like a raging sea on the night of a storm. He walked to his bathroom, splashing some cold water on his face, and looking at himself in the mirror. The marks on his face looked more as if some wild animal had mauled him with their claws or fangs. He took a quick shower and walked out of the bathroom, surveying the apartment that the Sandaime had acquired for him. There was a single room and a bathroom. There was a kitchen and a living room. For someone who had never really lived in a house of their own before, it was comparable to a mansion. Naruto went into the kitchen and grabbed a carton of milk, downing it in one gulp before moving to his room to get dressed. It had been about a week since Yamato had taken away his sword, and as a result Naruto had been forced to change his outfit a little bit more fitting of a shinobi. He wore a sleeveless black v-neck shirt with mesh underneath. He had black pants tied off at his shins with bandages. Unlike other shinobi, he had a kunai holster on both legs. He didn't bother grabbing the tanto that Sai had given him a while back. It was the first gift from a friend and he didn't want to destroy it. There was a reason why Naruto didn't use another sword in place of Flower Shadow. That was because samurai swords were specially forged to withstand monstrous amounts of chakra. A tanto would simply shatter as soon as Naruto used a single technique. He decided to keep it as a memento more than use it as a weapon. Sai told him that he didn't really understand but told him that he would try to. Naruto left his apartment, wrapping the forehead protector around his neck. He walked through the streets of Konoha. There were vendors on either side. Some greeted him, some just ignored him. He doubted anyone knew he was that demon from 4 years ago. Naruto walked past the Ichiraku ramen store, a store which he favored when he was still in Konoha. He had walked through the streets enough times now to know where things were. Currently he was headed to a designated meeting spot with Sai and Shiho. They would meet up and walk to the training spot together, trading small talk and latest tips on their training. Naruto! Shiho waved her arms from where she sat. Over here! Shiho looked a bit more like a shinobi now. She had cropped her hair short to her head, though she still kept the glasses with the swirls tinted on them. She had a beige V-neck shirt with short sleeves. Beneath it she had a mesh shirt. She wore black shorts and over a beige mini-skirt. She had ditched the backpack long before and had a kunai holster on one thigh. Over her right arm she had tied her forehead protector. Sai dressed the same. You're late. Sai commented. As usual. Naruto sighed and hung his head. Sorry. Sai and Shiho looked at each other. Naruto simply wasn't the same since he had lost the sword. The first couple of days had been the worst. Naruto couldn't even walk straight at first. He had lost any semblance of confidence that he possessed before. During a sparring session with Shiho, he tripped over his own foot and Shiho, now having some semblance of chakra control, managed to sit on top of him and put a kunai to his neck. Sai, when he returned, heard it from Shiho, who was boasting the entire time. Sai nicknamed Naruto as the new weakling of Team 13. Naruto didn't even bother to contest it. Hey Naruto, how did your training with Yamato-sensei yesterday go? Shiho asked. He taught me a new ninjutsu. Naruto answered as the three began to walk towards their training ground together. But I'm not sure if it'll be of any use. A weakling, Sai commented once more. Will always be a weakling no matter what type of ninjutsu he learns. Naruto showed his teeth, growling at Sai. Shut it, will you? I'm sorry. Sai said, taking out a book titled How to Make Friends Fast and beginning to read it. I read it in the book that friends tease each other. What jutsu was it? Shiho asked purely out of curiosity. She wondered what kind of jutsu Yamato could possibly teach to a samurai. It was called Kagebunshin no Jutsu. Shadow clone technique, Naruto replied, putting a hand on each of the kunai holster on his leg. I don't know guys, I've been just practicing kunai and shuriken throwing lately. Does it really help? I feel like it's always better to have a sword handy. These blades are just so small. Sounds like you're... Sai whispered. Sai. Shiho yelled, blushing red. Oops. Sai sighed. Did I tell it wrong again? That was a joke, Shiho-chan. It was the type of joke that you messed up, stupid, Naruto said while peering at Sai from the corner of his eyes. Oh, I see. Sai put the book aside and took out another book titled Proper Jokes for the Female Kind and opened it to a certain page. Just give me a second. Naruto couldn't help but feel a smile tug at his lips as he watched Shiho looked on horrified at Sai's antics. Oh look! It's that team Kiba was talking about. Ino pointed at the trio that was walking in front of them, looking out from behind a signpost. I get that, Shikamaru said in a bored tone. But why did we have to hide? It's the principle of the thing. Ino yelled at her teammate. She looked at Naruto and Sai. While they both looked kind of cool, she turned towards Shikamaru and Chuji. Come on, we're introducing ourselves. Shikamaru, look awake. Chuji, put away your chips. Hey you guys. Wait up for us. Naruto stopped looking behind them. He heard Shiho gasp in recognition but ignored it, looking at the newcomers. Hey, we heard you guys are a new team. Ino said as she approached them. We thought we should introduce ourselves since we're all the same genin and all. She put her hands behind her back and straightened her back. What are your names? Besides Shiho, I mean. I'm Naruto. Naruto cocked his head to the side. This is our teammate Sai. This is Shikamaru. Ino gestured at the lazy genin who had his arms folded behind his head. This is Chuji. Then she straightened her back again, pushing out her chest. I'm called Ino, she blushed. Pineapple head, Sai pointed at Shikamaru, then Chuji. Fat ass. Chuji opened his mouth. What did you? Hehehe, Ino laughed, a tick mark on her forehead, simultaneously blocking Chuji's mouth and holding him in a headlock. Sorry, my teammate's a bit sensitive. Blonde flirty hag. Sai said with a smile, pointing at Ino. Naruto buried his face in his hands, talking to Shiho. I'm not taking responsibility for this. Chuji, Ino released the fat genin. Kill him. Chuji threw a punch towards Sai. Sai easily dodged it, letting it sail by him harmlessly. He grabbed Chuji's arm and twisted it, appearing behind him and holding him in an arm lock. Shikamaru frowned at this, moving his hands together to form hand seals. Naruto's launched an overhead kick, the heel hitting Shikamaru's hand. He continued with the kick and brought Shikamaru's torso to the floor, stepping on the genin's hand. Shikamaru looked up at the smirking blonde. Fast. Now, Naruto said, giving the genin I don't know gesture. Your side attacked us first, you know. Ino looked at both of her teammates, completely immobilized by Team 13. Shiho looked at Ino and gave an apologetic smile, putting her hands together. Sorry, apologized Shiho. My teammates are a bit hot-headed. Naruto put his hand in front of face, palm out. There was the sound of metal sinking in flesh. All the genins watching gasped in shock. Aiming right for the eyes, Naruto moved his hand away from his face. A kunai stabbed into his hand, the other end visible from the back of his hand. What rude manners! Naruto released Shikamaru, who got to his feet hastily and stood next to Ino. Sai released Tsuji as well, who went to his teammates. They just stared at Naruto's hand, which was dripping with blood, their mouths gaping open. Naruto! Shiho rushed to Naruto's side, who flicked his wrist with enough force to rip the kunai out. A spray of blood accompanied it as the piece of metal clanged on the floor. Sai narrowed his eyes at the ones who had thrown the kunai and made a motion to grab his tanto with his free hand. Naruto shook his head. Sasuke jumped down from the tree where he had been sitting in. He held the kunai in his hand, twirling it with a single finger through the loop on its handle. That was aimed towards your forehead protector. Oh, was it? Naruto was still smirking. Sorry, I'm kind of new at this ninja thing. Sasuke-kun. A pink-haired girl ran from behind him, standing next to him. She looked at the scene, eyes becoming wide at Naruto's wound. Hey, why are you guys walking so fast? A boy with light brown hair walked in. He had round eyes and his hair was parted in the middle, the ends spiky and pointing slightly upwards. He yawned, stifling it with the palm. Wait up for me. Then he looked at the scene. Oh. He whispered. Sasuke-kun, what have you done this time? Sasuke ignored his lazy teammate. Your name? Uzumaki Naruto. He lifted his hand up, the palm facing him. Next time, can you get my name before you try to kill me? Manners and whatnot. Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke folded his arms. Didn't ask? Naruto said with a smile. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Kawasu, Sakura, he ordered. Let's go. He turned on his heel, leaving the two shinobi behind. I'm sorry. We'll make up for it later, Sakura said as she turned around, chasing after Sasuke, who was walking away rather briskly. Wait up, Sasuke-kun. Always an adventure with those two. Kawasu sighed and folded his arms on the back of his head. He was wearing a long blue kimono. He smirked as he looked at Naruto. A lot of people are out to get you, Uzumaki Naruto. Not a lot of the genins like you. I'd be more careful about whose hands I step on next time. Well, then we should be going too. Shikamaru muttered. Yeah. Ino shot a cold look at Team 13. Let's go, Shikamaru, Tsuji. The three left, not having much to say about what had happened. Naruto, don't you need to bandage that? Shiho said in a worried tone. I'm fine for now. He peered at Shiho. Sai asked the question Naruto had wanted to. Did we embarrass you in front of your friends, Shiho-chan? My book says that. What he means is that we're sorry, Naruto said with a laugh. Even Sai cracked a smile. But your teammates with us. What do you expect? Shiho sighed. I guess I'll never be really popular since every other genin team hates us now. Girls value popularity. Sai said in a fake whisper to Naruto's ear. Oh, shut up. Shiho growled. Besides, I'm not alone anymore. She smiled at that. Naruto looked at Sai while grinning. For just a second, he thought Sai's smile was genuine. Naruto shook his head. Come on, we're late for training, and if this gets any cheesier, I'm going to hurl. Get up. Yamato ordered. Shiho struggled to get up and fell down on her chest as her strength failed her. Yamato, though at other times, was very mellow. During training he turned into someone else. He didn't really endorse any type of weakness. Shiho wondered if he was this tough with Naruto and Sai. Sometimes she felt like Yamato was training her to be the Anbu. Thanks to his Mokuton, would release, chakra, he was able to devise very interesting training strategies. Shiho for the first couple of days worked on basic strength. There was a training where wooden logs would explode out of the ground. At first Yamato had her dodging them, but as the training progressed he would throw a round ball into the air. While dodging the wooden logs she had to ride on a couple of them to catch it. Then he started throwing dull kunais, which gradually became sharper. But all in all, Shiho was happy. Shiho was getting stronger, visibly improving by leaps and bounds. Yamato had warned her that her chakra control and capacity wasn't the best, and she would have to work 10 times as hard to catch up to Naruto and Sai. Shiho was willing to work even 100 times harder. She had been useless to her team. Being knocked out by Naruto in the fight against the Sound Ninja, being the only one to lose the spar against the Awagakure genin named Mamaru. Shiho didn't want to hide behind her teammates forever. She was going to become strong enough not only to protect herself, but protect her teammates when they needed her to, just like they did for her. Gritting her teeth, Shiho stood up. Shiho formed hand seals and Yamato narrowed his eyes. Shiho, however, had one talent. Elemental manipulation. Katan, Ippo no Jutsu. Fire release, one-step technique. Shiho's feet lit into flames. I can't keep the jutsu going for long, I just need to hit him once, that's it. Shiho knelt down, her hands on the ground and her feet looking as if she was about to launch off running. Yamato formed a hand seal and half of his body turned into wood, and it split off from him, becoming a whole new Yamato. Mokuton, Bunshin no Jutsu. Wood release, clone technique. Shiho exploded off of the ground. Literally, the fire on her feet weren't for offensive purposes. She didn't exactly use her feet to kick since she wasn't adept enough at taijutsu for that yet. Instead she used the fire to enhance her speed, like just now. The fire at her feet exploded, and by timing it just right she was able to gain a tremendous increase in speed. Sai and Naruto couldn't even touch her when she used this technique. But it didn't take too long for them to figure out a counter. Since Shiho used an explosion to get an increase in speed, she couldn't switch direction in the middle. She didn't possess the necessary body control and chakra control to pull off the technique once more while going in a straight line. This technique would never allow her to have complete control of directions, but Yamato had told her that as she got better at it she'd be able to travel in straight lines in all directions. Definitely in waves, but in pure zigzags it would be a formidable weapon. The Bunshin blocked. Shiho had covered the distance between them in less than a second, seeming to almost teleport. The technique was similar to Shunshin, body flicker, but its offensive capabilities far surpassed the technique that was made for simple movement. The Bunshin took out a kunai and blocked Shiho's kunai in reply, only for Shiho to puff into smoke. "Got you," Shiho whispered as she appeared behind herself. Yamato had seen the rapid change of hand seals as she charged towards his own clone, but his clone had been blinded by the speed and had only seen a fast blur move towards him. While charging his clone, Shiho had formed hand seals, sending a clone of herself in her place. The real Shiho performed her fire technique again and punched the clone in the stomach. Then her feet exploded once again. The strength from the jutsu actually allowed Shiho to lift Yamato off of the ground and into the air. The real Yamato looked at the ground. There were footsteps in the ground outlined in faint flames. He looked at the two craters in the ground where Shiho had exploded off of the ground. She's getting stronger, though she's nowhere near Naruto or Sai's level. If nothing else, she'll be able to hold her own when those two are in a pinch. He looked at the air with a smile. You're not a burden anymore, Shiho. Training day and night paid off. Shiho moved her body in midair, moving herself to behind the Bunshin. She placed both feet on the Bunshin while forming hand seals. That was the weakness of the technique. The technique was named aptly, one step. After one explosion she had to perform the jutsu once more if she wanted another explosion. She usually covered this weakness by using a clone or simply relying on the speed of her technique. Her feet exploded. The Bunshin crashed into the ground, turning back into wood while Shiho was sent further into the air. Yamato watched, not worried at all, as he turned around and began to leave. That's it for today. Good job. Shiho landed on the ground, breathing heavily. Finally, she whispered. But that one was a lot weaker than the other ones. It didn't even bother to move out of the way. She winced in pain in her legs. Her jutsu came at a price similar to Naruto's sword technique. Her legs and chakra points in her feet couldn't handle the pressure yet. Yamato assured her that she would get used to it with time. So 3 times the limit, Shiho thought with a grim expression. She looked at Yamato walking away with not a single wound. Shiho jogged a little to catch up with her teacher. Sensei, wait up, Naruto panted, his feet to either side of him, and one hand on the floor. The other clutched two shuriken. Naruto had a scroll on his mouth. He was glaring at Sai, who stood a little bit away from him. Sai had his tanto out. His other hand was inching towards his holster where his paintbrush and paper was contained. Sai threw his tanto towards the blonde, sending it whirling end over end. Naruto threw his shuriken, which bounced off of the tanto. Sai sat down, and already started to draw on his paper scroll. Shit, thought Naruto. He ducked underneath the tanto, sending it sailing by him harmlessly. He leapt backwards and took out 3 shuriken in both hands, sending them flying towards Sai. He formed hand seals with one hand while the other one reached into his holster to grab more shuriken. Hand seals with one hand. Sai nodded grimly. Naruto usually didn't use 2 hands for those types of techniques. Something about samurai training. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. Naruto muffled through the scroll in his mouth. The shuriken that he threw began to multiply the 6 that he originally threw, becoming dozens. They hummed through the air, flying towards Sai. Ninpo, Choju Giga. Ninja Arts, Super Beast Imitation Drawing. Sai sent a herd of lions running towards Naruto. The swarm of shuriken hit the lions and dropped to the ground, covered in black ink. Sai soared into the air on top of a large bird that he had summoned along with the lions. Sai began to draw on his palette once more, sending herds of lions flying towards Naruto from the sky. Naruto formed a hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow Clone Technique. A puff of smoke appeared on either side of him, revealing 2 perfect copies of Naruto. The blonde grabbed their hands. Henge no Jutsu. Transformation Technique. The 2 blonde copies turned into shuriken, a large ring in the center, and 3 flat blades pointing outwards. Unlike other shuriken, these had completely flat blades. The shuriken was a lot larger than normal ones, each blade being about 4 feet long. Sai narrowed his eyes. When did he? Naruto threw the blades one after the other, forming hand seals once more. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he yelled. These shuriken multiplied into the dozens once more. However, instead hitting the ink lions and falling towards the ground, these held enough mass to cleave right through the swarm, heading straight for Sai. The bird that Sai was riding on began to weave through the air, dodging everything. Naruto formed hand seals once more. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he whispered, and the swarm of giant shuriken doubled in size once more, filling the air with a humming sound. Before, there were gaps due to the lions changing their course slightly, but now the sky was filled with shuriken, blacking out the sky for Naruto and hiding Naruto from Sai's view. Sai cursed and leaped off of the bird as it was ripped apart by half a dozen shuriken. Taking out a kunai, Sai blocked each shuriken that were threatening to cut him in half. Dodging the last shuriken by flipping, he landed on the ground on both feet, his kunai held in a reverse grip. Suiton, water release, Sai gasped as he heard Naruto's voice from behind him. Katana. Sai turned around to see the scroll in Naruto's mouth partially open with a large circular seal on it. From the seal came out a spout of water which suddenly coalesced into a handle of a sword. As if drawing it from a scabbard, Naruto pulled his sword out of the scroll. The sword was transparent, clearly made of water, yet when Naruto flicked it to the side not even a droplet fell from it. Sai tensed his legs. He knew from experience that Naruto had two types of sword techniques. The first was Dance of Dragons. This dance had techniques that involved a lot of chakra and were rather slow but powerfully destructive. Then there was the Dance of Sky, which involved techniques that weren't as powerful, but just as lethal. The difference was that the Dance of Sky was instantaneous. While Dance of Sky had to do with cutting down only one person, the Dance of Dragons could be used to hit a whole area. The Dance of Dragon could be dodged but not blocked. The Dance of Sky could not be dodged but it could be blocked. Sai narrowed his eyes. It's over. Naruto smirked, the sword of water at his side. Why's that? Sai whispered. Naruto nodded upwards. Sai's eyes widened. The rain of shuriken that Naruto had thrown into the air earlier all crashed towards the ground at once, stabbing themselves into whatever they touched. Sai danced through the rain of blades, dodging everything, then stopped when he felt something cold press against the back of his neck. Naruto stood behind Sai, holding his sword in a reverse grip, the blade part of the sword made of water on Sai's neck. Checkmate. Naruto whispered. Then Sai exploded into ink. Naruto snarled as all of his shuriken exploded into smoke. He felt a kunai press against his neck. When I blocked your vision with the shuriken? Naruto asked, releasing the water technique and letting the sword drip back into water and turn into nothingness. He grabbed the scroll from his mouth and put it back into his holster. Man, I'm running out of techniques to use. Maybe I should ask Yamato-sensei to teach me some new moves. I have a question, Naruto. Sai and Naruto sat down on a rock, both of them pausing for breath. Naruto raised an eyebrow in inquiry. Why don't you just have your shadow clones transform into a sword or form those swords of water from the beginning? It's different. Naruto sighed. The swords made of shadow clone aren't really the same as the sword because they can't handle the chakra that I push into them. They just disappear as soon as I start the technique. Same with the water sword. The best I could do it fight with them without using any of the dances. So you can't use the dances with the water sword? Sai smiled. So I got scared for nothing. I'm trying to figure out a way to make them sturdier, but it's not working out so well. Naruto sighed. We're back. Shirhan said as she and Yamato walked out into the clearing. Yamato glanced at the training ground. There was ink everywhere and stabs in the ground from some type of large blade, though they were all gone. He sighed and knelt down, using his chakra to fill the earth again and remake the plants. We have a mission today. Yamato stood up, finished repairing the training ground. Shiho went over to sit on the rock with her teammates. Yamato glanced at his team. They were growing at a faster pace every single day. Shiho was no longer the burden of the team that she was. Yamato knew for a fact that Shiho trained 10 times harder than anyone else. Sai, already someone who had enough talents to enter the root training division, was growing stronger and smarter each day as well. Naruto picked up ninja techniques with ease, his previous samurai training being applied with ruthless efficiency. They were ready, but first, all three of you have separate missions. Yamato looked at each of them in turn. Don't fail this. This mission is designed to not only test your strength but to see if you have what it takes to enter the Chunin exams. Do other teams have to do this? Asked Naruto. No. Yamato shook his head. But due to the nature of our team we have to be tested apparently. He smirked. I know you won't let me down. Isn't it enough that we have your word? Shiho looked worried. Don't worry about it. I know that you guys will complete the mission with flying colors. He threw a scroll to each of his students. Now go! Meet back here in an hour. The three vanished. The scroll took Shiho to the outskirts of the village. She looked at the scroll in her hands, making sure that she was at the right place. She was at a mountainous place. The girl was forced to grueling walk up a steep hill to get here. There were large rocks all around them and some greenery, but the trees were yards away, too far to be of any use. She leaned on a rock and placed the scroll inside her pouch, looking over the cliff at the village below. It looked so peaceful. She gulped and looked at her hands, calloused and wounded with the amount of training that she did. Shiho closed her eyes, remembering Yamato's words. The Chunin exam. Even thinking about it sent an involuntary shiver throughout Shiho's body. She'd never seen real combat before. The closest to combat she had ever been in was that spar in the temple, then her spars with Naruto and Sai. She didn't really count those as real combat since the chances of her dying were almost slim to none. She didn't even count Yamato among them since she knew he wouldn't let her die. But the Chunin exam, she had heard stories of half the entrance examinees dying. The chances of her being alive was less than half. Sure, she had rapidly improved, but had she improved to the point of being able to compete with Chunin? Her fighting style was an explosive one, no pun intended. She could use her technique in succession exactly 3 times. After that she was reduced to little more than a normal shinobi who could barely get off a Bunshin no Jutsu. She would be forced to fight with kunai and shuriken, barely having enough chakra to stick to a tree. That was the weakness of her fighting style. There was no such thing as second wind. If she misused her jutsu even once, she was done. Shiho sighed. You seem worried. Shiho quickly turned around, a kunai in her hand when someone grabbed her wrist. She looked up to see a bearded man with a cigar in the corner of his mouth. He had spiky black hair and the chunin vest over his dark blue ninja outfit. The forehead protector read Konoha, so Shiho relaxed in his grip, expecting him to let go. He didn't. He lunged forward and placed a kunai on Shiho's neck. If I was your enemy who had stolen your comrade's clothing, he whispered, you'd be dead by now. Then he released her. Shiho leaped away, holding the kunai in her hand in a reverse grip. It was dripping with blood. Asuma flicked the hand that had been holding her wrist. She had twisted her hand at the last second and left a shallow, but long, cut on his forearm. He looked at her with an amused expression. If you were an enemy, Shiho muttered, you'd have lost an arm along with my life. Asuma narrowed his eyes. I remember this girl, she was as timid as a mouse. Yamato, just how did you train her? He looked at the sky, remembering his father telling him that he had a special mission. Yamato was a jounin, but he was still Anbu. Yamato knew how to measure strength, but because he was so strong he might look down on the chunin exam. That's how casualties happened. Teachers overestimated their students and underestimated the chunin exam. That was why they had to do this. Asuma took out his trench knife. This is your mission. He spat out his cigarette and stomped on it. Survive. Nato's situation was a bit different. A man named Kakashi was standing in front of him. He had spiky white hair and a forehead protector that covered one eye. He had a book in one hand and his other hand was in his pockets. He wasn't even looking at Naruto, who had arrived to see him. Naruto simply sat down on the rock opposite of Kakashi's and waited, glancing at Kakashi and the other newcomer. The Sandame was sitting on the rock as well, and in Sandame's lap lay a sword. It looked a lot like Hanekage. It was a katana, but it wasn't curved. It was still in its scabbard, perfectly rectangular with rounded edges. The guard, unlike Flower's shadow, looked like three-bladed shuriken. Naruto immediately recognized the sword for being one of samurai origins, but he didn't know where in hell the Sandame could have got it from. You're agitated, Kakashi muttered. Naruto snapped his attention to Kakashi from the sword. That sword, is it? The land of iron sent it to us, Naruto. The Sandame said, looking at the blonde boy. It's yours, Naruto nodded. But you're not going to give it to me. I will after this battle, that is. Hiruzen nodded at Kakashi. I want to see how much you've grown in shinobi skills. If I'm to send you on missions, you'll require a certain delicacy that samurai techniques lack. Especially if you were Musashi's pupil. He smiled at Naruto. I believe in you though, Naruto. Naruto spat on the ground, standing up. Let's start then. Kakashi stood up as well, but didn't bother taking his eyes off of the book. Ready when you are. Kakashi bent backwards, dodging the barrage of shuriken that Naruto had thrown at him. He stood back up, looking at Naruto with a bored gleam. However, once he got a look at Naruto, his eye widened in surprise. Naruto stood right in front of him, a few puffs of smoke indicating that some jutsu had happened. He held a scroll in his mouth and a three-bladed shuriken of gigantic proportions in each hand. The boy's cerulean eyes had a certain crazed look in them that made Kakashi put away the book. He gulped and stopped himself from reaching to raise his forehead protector and used the Sharingan. Hey old man, Naruto brought his arms together, crossing the blades of the shuriken. What if I kill him? Sarutobi laughed. Try your best, Naruto. Next time, Naruto muttered through the scroll in his mouth. I won't miss. Kakashi nodded, narrowing his eyes. Sai landed in front of a chair, kneeling with one hand on his knee and the other a fist on the ground. They were in a dark room lit by a single light bulb on the ceiling. Root usually met in rooms like these, dark, smelly and musty. Sai didn't particularly enjoy these meetings, but he knew it was a necessary precaution when dealing with top-secret matters. The boy bowed his head until he saw from the corner of his eye the gesture to rise. Sai stood getting a look at his master. Danzo was a frail old man with a cane at his side. Currently he sat in a rickety old wooden chair. He had black shaggy hair with bandages covering his right eye. He had an X-shaped scar on his chin, amplifying his square jaw. He wore a white shirt with a dark gray robe over it which came down to his feet. His right arm was underneath the robe, close against his chest as if it was in a cast. Sai smiled. Danzo's eye seemed nearly closed, but Sai knew for a fact that nothing escaped the old man's attention. Report. Sai bowed once more before standing up straight. The Uzumaki boy is powerful. I have not yet been able to witness his full power, but I saw the aftermaths once. He had surveyed the scene after Naruto and Yamato had their bout over Naruto's sword. It had terrified him that such a young boy could do so much damage. He does not care much for Konoha. However, he is very loyal to the idea of friendship and comrades. He despises those who pick on those weaker than themselves and is not above breaking the rules to do what he thinks is right. So he's a complete failure as a ninja. Danzo whispered, stroking his chin. That's not. Sai began. Danzo looked at him. Sai hung his head, sweat beginning to bead all over his body. Satisfied, Danzo nodded. I'm beginning to think that you are getting attached to your team and is forgetting the true purpose of why you were placed on that team. He tilted his head to the side. Are you? Observing the Uzumaki boy. Sai tasted something bitter. Danzo nodded. There's an additional mission this time. He continued watching Sai closely. During the Chunin exams there is a rumor that Orochimaru will attempt to get his hands on the Uchiha boy. Sai nodded, giving nothing away. Unseen to Sai, Danzo relaxed. Keep that from happening. But that means I'll have to be separated from my team. Sai protested. If that happens we might. There is no such thing as we. Danzo snarled. Sai straightened once more, stiffening. You are a rude member, Sai. Nothing else. There exists no bonds. No teammates. Above all, you do not feel pity for your teammates, or any sense of loyalty towards them. Do you know why? Danzo stood up and put a hand on the young boy's shoulder and bent down to meet him eye to eye. You have no emotions. Sai felt something crumble inside of him. He kneeled in front of Danzo. As you say, Danzo-sama. My loyalty is to the village, nothing else. There is no sense of self or sense of emotions. There exists only the mission. Danzo nodded, satisfied, and turned around. Dismissed. Yes, Danzo-sama. Shiho ducked underneath Asuma's trench knife as it threatened to cut off her head. Asuma launched out with a knee and caught Shiho in the stomach, sending her flying backwards. To the girl's credit, she somersaulted with one hand, throwing a few kunai with the other and landing on both feet. She took out one kunai, holding it in a reverse grip, and blocked a few kunai Asuma had thrown towards her. Shiho was breathing heavily, although Asuma had nothing to show for the few exchanges that they had. Shiho had a long gash on her arm, though it wasn't deep. She kept the kunai in her hand, looking at Asuma with death in her eyes. She seemed frustrated beyond reason. Asuma sighed. The frustration meant that the girl had tried everything she could. She had used Kawamari, substitution, once, and a bunshin technique once each. She had run up a rock's vertical surface once, but now she looked tired. Asuma predicted that it wouldn't be too long until she passed out from chakra exhaustion. Almost there, just a little more. Shiho was beginning to near physical exhaustion, but her chakra reserves were almost exactly perfect for exactly 3 techniques. Asuma sighed and looked at the sky. Yamato, what are you thinking sending this girl to the Chunin exams? She has little to no chakra and only average control. The only thing she's decent at is taijutsu, but even then she's a little below average. She's only good at escaping. I applaud you for taking someone like her to this level, but the Chunin exams? She'll be eaten alive. Shiho began to gather chakra for the necessary techniques while Asuma was staring off into the sky. She remembered what Yamato had told her. It was while they had been returning from the temple. Naruto and Sai were sleeping in the room upstairs. Shiho couldn't sleep, so she came downstairs to find Yamato quietly looking through the window while sitting in a chair. She looked at her sensei, glad that someone like him who had patience and understanding was their teacher. Any other teacher would have punished Naruto for acting the way he did. But the blonde got off lightly with a little berating. Come here, Shiho, Yamato said in an almost bored tone. Shiho startled, surprised by the voice breaking the silence. I want to talk to you. Shiho nodded and approached Yamato. As she did, a chair came out of the floor for her to sit on. She sat down. You're weak, he said flatly. Shiho's eyes widened. Naruto knocked you out when you guys were fighting with the Odo shinobi, didn't he? He didn't wait for a reply. Naruto and Sai, even by Jounin standards, by all rights are geniuses. By now you are probably asking yourself what you're doing on a team with those monsters. Shiho gulped. What a talentless girl like you is doing on a special team like this one. Yamato smiled sadly. Shiho was on the verge of tears. Yamato was completely right. She had asked those questions throughout the day hundreds of times. She looked at Naruto and Sai, who displayed more and more strength as they got to know each other better. She had not yet seen them bested or even tired yet. They seemed to have a bottomless pool of strength. They also had this air of confidence that brimmed with power. Just by being near them she felt safe, but when she was by herself she was overcome with fear, that she couldn't protect herself. She was afraid when facing that Iwagakure genin, despite it being a spar and surrounded by her teammates. She was afraid to show weakness in front of her team, afraid to lose and pour muck over her team's strength. Shiho hated her weakness, hated the fact that she had to chase after them, hated the fact that she had no talent, and above all, hated herself for bringing them down. All teams have a specialty. Yamato looked at Shiho and began to count them off. Team 8 is a team specializing in tracking and espionage. Team 7 is known for frontline combat. Team 10 is known for the Ino-Shikacho combination, which specializes in disruption of enemy forces. He smiled at Shiho. Guess what our specialty is? Yamato didn't give her a chance to answer. Assassination. Shiho's eyes widened. It took a while for it to come to me. Yamato explained. Your knowledge of seals could break open any defense seal, rendering it useless. With Naruto's strength, combat and the actual deed should not be a problem. Sai's techniques are perfect for stalling for time or for getting away from the site of murder. He tilted his head and looked at her in the eye. Don't you think it's perfect? So Shiho, don't worry too much. He got up, leaving the girl in the seat. You have a place on this team. As soon as we get back you'll be the one I concentrate on the most. Don't worry, if nothing I'll make sure you're not a burden. Shiho looked down at her hands clenched on top of her thighs. I have a place on this team, she whispered. And don't forget, Yamato said as he walked up the stairs. Your greatest weakness is your greatest strength. Shiho gripped the kunai tighter. My weakness is my greatest strength, Asuma sighed. Let's start wrapping this up. He turned to the side as the kunai sailed by him harmlessly. I appreciate the effort. He stopped talking as Shiho finished forming her hand seal. He let her wondering what type of jutsu the girl had up her sleeve next. Doton Ippon. Earth release. One step, Shiho whispered and stomped the ground. Just how strong a jutsu could that girl? The ground that Asuma was standing on exploded, and the jounin opened his mouth in shock. He unconsciously poured chakra into his feet to stick to the almost vertical surface. When Shiho had stomped on the ground, the stomp carved out of the ground, the very rock tilting towards her and lifting up Asuma's foot like a gigantic seesaw. It wasn't the fact that she used this jutsu that amazed Asuma, but the sheer scale of the jutsu. He'd expect the jutsu to be this strong only if it was used by a chunin, but the fact that a girl who was helpless before him had used it shocked him to his core. As a result, he didn't even register that Shiho had completed another chain of hand seals. Katon Ippon. The ground that Shiho was on exploded, and when Asuma blinked, the girl was in front of him. He blinked again. What the hell is happening? This is the last time I can use it. Shiho used the momentum to strike Asuma in the stomach with an uppercut, filling it up with chakra and sending him sailing into the air. Asuma looked at the rock that was almost standing up now and Shiho that stuck to it. Shiho leaped off of the rock and Asuma registered somewhere in the back of his mind that she had placed both feet on his back. There's no way a girl that was so weak before. Your underestimation of me, Shiho whispered as she formed hand seals. Was your undoing? Katon Ippon. Her feet exploded into flames once more. Asuma felt intense heat and pressure at his back, and before he knew it, the ground was in front of him. Shiho watched as Asuma slammed into the ground, causing cracks to form around the area and rocks to rise up from the impact of the blow. She landed a few feet away, wincing in pain at the impact that her legs got. She watched as the dust cleared, revealing Asuma. Asuma lay on a rock, his body limp. There was a little bit of drool made of blood leaking out of the corner of his mouth. His eyes were unfocused, but Shiho felt that approaching him would be dangerous. She purposefully showed only her weak sides to me. She pretended to have no chakra left. Then she poured all she had into that first jutsu to shock me. She knew that I'd watch her do the first jutsu, then she unbalanced me, and while I was still in shock sent me into midair where I'd be helpless, unable to dodge. Then she got my back and used her strongest jutsu to land the decisive blow. If I was a genin, I might be dead by now. Asuma smirked, freaking out the girl. Good thing I'm not. Asuma got up and dusted himself. Shiho's eyes widened as Asuma seemed to be almost completely unhurt despite the blood on his lips. You pass, he said with a smile. You actually passed as soon as you punched me in the stomach, but I guess you were frustrated, eh? His smile got wider. Or was that acting too? This isn't acting. Shiho collapsed to the ground face first, barely conscious. That was all I had. Asuma sighed and thought of his students. They have their work cut out for them if they want to beat this team. Naruto swung the shuriken in front of him, crossing his arms. Kakashi leaped backwards, skidding on the ground. The blonde swung his arm back, then threw the shuriken towards the copycat ninja with all he had. However, instead of throwing them sideways, he sent the shuriken so that they flew vertically. Kakashi prepared to dodge when he saw Naruto forming hand seals. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto's voice came out muffled through the scroll. Kakashi's eye widened. He's going to use that technique on a shuriken of that size? How many is he going to make? 2? 4? Kakashi was wrong. Dozens and dozens of shuriken came into existence, filling the air with the humming of the air being cut by the blades. Kakashi had no chance to dodge but to move underground. He prepared to use his jutsu. The first shuriken to pass by him exploded into smoke, turning into the blonde. Kakashi realized a split second late as the blonde grabbed his hands from behind, keeping him from forming hand seals. Kakashi panicked for a second, his hands disabled and the shuriken coming from the front. The jounin spun and dodged a swarm of shuriken, weaving in between them and dodging every single one. When he had done so, the shadow clone on his back disappeared into smoke. Kakashi stopped and caught a regular shuriken that Naruto had thrown towards his forehead. He looked at the shuriken, noticing that there was blood on it. Naruto's thumb was bleeding. The scroll in his mouth opened up a bit, showing 2 circle seals on one page. With a smirk, Naruto swiped his finger horizontally over both of them. There was a puff of smoke on either side of Naruto. On Naruto's right and left was a barrel full of almost 50 swords. Naruto kicked the bottom of the barrel, sending it into the air. The swords fell out, and all of them stabbed into the ground around the blonde, who took the scroll out of his mouth and put it back in his holster. He smiled at Kakashi, who looked shocked. If anything, this kid is just full of surprises. Naruto picked up a sword in each hand. There are exactly 100 swords, Naruto muttered. Then he swung both swords in front of him. Ryu no Mai Tsun Ryu. Dance of Dragon, Twin Dragons, Naruto whispered. From each of the swords came out a dragon made purely of chakra. They were blue in color, though they were reddish at the edges. Their jaws, while open, had to reach at least 10 feet in height. The dragons roared at Kakashi as they rushed towards him, intertwining around each other and making grooves in the ground when they touched it. Kakashi lifted up his forehead protector, revealing his Dijutsu. Kakashi jumped upwards, letting the dragons pass by him underneath. The dragons crashed into a rock, sending it flying all over the place in splinters. Kakashi watched from above. That destructive power is no joke. The 2 swords in Naruto's hands cracked, then broke into shards of metal. He tossed them behind him, wincing at the pain in his arm. Damn it, since the swords can't handle my chakra, it's coursing back up my arm. Naruto grabbed a sword in both arms again and pointed one towards Kakashi, who was in mid-air. Ryu no Mai, Sho Ryu Sr., Dance of Dragon, Rising Dragon Flash. The sword instantly shot out a transparent image of a dragon, way bigger than the ones that he had shot towards Kakashi before. This dragon didn't even roar or head towards Kakashi. The dragon had appeared instantly and Kakashi was already within the swirling vortex of chakra. The dragon's jaws looked as if it could swallow 2 whole houses at once. The Sandaime watched as Kakashi crossed his arms in front of him only as his clothing became ripped to tatters. Tiny little cuts appeared on Kakashi's body. The sword in Naruto's hand exploded into splinters. Naruto winced as another wave of pain shot up his arm. Then he stabbed the other sword into the ground. Ryu no Mai, Kuro Ryu Sion, Dance of Dragon, Black Dragon Ascension. A black dragon exploded out of the ground, sending rocks scattering around the clearing. The dragon roared once while heading towards Kakashi, made completely of black chakra. It seized Kakashi's torso in its jaws before snapping shut, only for Kakashi to turn into a pile of splinters. Naruto felt something cold touch the back of his neck. He reacted with bestial instinct, spinning around and picking up another sword and slashing the air in front of him. Kakashi pulled his hips back, barely dodging the strike. Fast, usually people freeze when steel touches them. He reacted instantly. Even if this was a real battle, I wouldn't have been able to get a position on him. Kakashi's Sharingan began to spin faster as Naruto picked up another sword and began to slash in front of him. Kakashi leaped away out of Naruto's reach when the blonde did something strange. He twirled the sword in his hand and forming a perfect circle. Kakashi's senses went into hyperdrive, and he leaped away as far as he could. He looked back, hearing the sound of something being pressed towards another. The rock that had been behind him had a perfect circle in it. The hole's radius was the exact length of the sword's blade, which crumbled as Naruto tossed it behind him. Kakashi stared at the hole in the rock, his eyes wide. What the fuck, Yamato, what have you been feeding this kid? Sora no Mai Mangetsu. Dance of Sky, Full Moon, Naruto whispered. Then he grabbed another sword and put it at the left side of his waist. This time I'll show you more than just the moon, I'll show you the sun. Pain shot up his arm like never before. Naruto bit back a scream, snarling instead and dropping the sword. He moved his arm to grab the next sword and found that waves of pain pulsed from his hand to shoulder, making it painful to grip even the handle. That's enough, Naruto. Kakashi muttered, pulling the forehead protector back down to cover his eye. I see the chakra backlashes in your arm. Let's stop this right here. He looked at Sarutobi. The Sandaime nodded. I've seen enough. Naruto winced. This wouldn't happen, he said with flat eyes. If I had a proper sword. The Sandaime smirked and grabbed the sword by the scabbard. Then he threw it towards Naruto. The blonde caught it between his knee and feet, balancing it, and then lifting it up into the air and grabbing it. To his surprise, he found a small letter attached to the handle. He grabbed the sword under his armpit and opened the letter. There was a flash of light. What the hell, Naruto began, then he felt the sword in his armpit disappear and a strange tingler sensation on his left palm. He tried to shield himself from the light, but it had blinded him nonetheless. He rubbed his eyes and opened his left palm to see what had happened. There was a circular seal on his palm, the kanji kai, release, on it. He looked at it with disgust, then at the letter. Dear Naruto-kun, this is Mifune. It has been long since we last spoke. By now I suspect that you should be feeling the after effects of using Hanakage, the flower shadow. If you continue to use it, I fear that you will lose your arms. I have sent you a sword, forged with remnants of your chakra mixed in. However, I have placed a special technique into the letter that will seal the sword in your left palm. Until you have figured out the true reason for why I did this, the sword will not appear. With love, Mifune. P.S. Please send me a shipment of Konoha sake. It's really cold here. Is it nice and warm in Konoha? Here it's always snow and ice, as you know. I heard that the sun rises every day in Konoha. Is that true? Just send me the damned shipment of Konoha sake. Naruto's sweat dropped at the last part of the letter, then at his left hand. Then he looked at Kakashi and the Sandaime, both of whom were smiling. You guys are enjoying this, aren't you? What if Naruto was wandering samurai warrior? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.